Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 21-40. Chapter 21 Conflict. Me. Tessero was stunned. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Ha 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 ha. Then there was a laugh. Tessero couldn't straighten his waist with laughter, and looked very painful while covering his stomach. Me. Ha 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 ha. Vlad, you are so interesting. Tessero burst into tears of laughter, obviously going to be amused by Vlad. Come on, tell me. Tessero finally stopped laughing and whispered. Vlad, come and tell me, why do you think I will still cooperate with you? Why do you think I'll work with a bereaved dog who has nothing? Vlad, come on, please come and tell me. Why do you think I'll work with you? You seem to have looked down on me from the beginning. Vlad wasn't angry, it wasn't a big deal. No no no, Tessero waved his hands in denial. Not at the beginning, after you left the Big Mom, when you were still a member of the Charlotte family, I still attached great importance to you. After all, at that time, with you the cooperation has brought me a lot of benefits. Quote. However, what qualifications do you have for me to pay attention to you now? Tessero's expression was playful. What else do you have that deserves my attention when you have lost everything? Yes. Vlad smiled and said, there is still something, Tessero, I still have something worthy of your attention. No, there should be something worthy of your fear. Fear? Ha 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 ha. Tessero laughed. What nonsense are you talking about? Vlad, do you think you can bring me into submission with your force? I know, when you escaped from Charlotte's house, you defeated Snug, one of the 4 desert generals. No, now you are 3 generals. Do you think this kind of record can make me afraid? No, Tessero, that's not what I'm talking about. Vlad shook his head. Strength is important, but I don't think I'm strong enough to frighten men like you on my own. So, what do you have to rely on? Tessero felt a little uneasy. Tessero, Vlad said comfortably, leaning on the soft sofa, have you heard of the Fishman Pirates? Fishman Pirates? Tessero was a little puzzled. Why did he suddenly get involved with the Fishman Pirates? Yes, the Fishman Pirates. The Fishman Pirates led by Jinbei, one of the king's Shichibukai, is not a little-known faction. I think underground tycoons like you, Tessero, have heard of it. Right, Vlad whispered. Of course, I have heard of it. Hexia Jinbei is not a small person, and I still know his intelligence very well. Tessero didn't know what medicine Vlad's gourd was selling, but he still replied. Then you must know the characteristics of the Fishman Pirates. Characteristics? That's right, all the Fishman Pirates will have the characteristics. Vlad said softly. You mean, Tessero replied softly with a sudden palpitation, you mean the sun tattoo that every Fishman Pirate member has on his body? Yes yes yes, Vlad repeated. This is it, this is it. So what's the matter? Tessero couldn't understand. What's so great about this? Yes. Vlad said softly, this sun tattoo is not easy. What do you mean? Tessero wondered. Tessero, you must be well aware of the fact that Fisher Tiger climbed to the Red Soil continent and rushed into Mariajoy to free the slaves, right? Vlad glanced at Tessero lightly and said softly. Ah, Tessero was even more confused about what Vlad meant. Of course he knew. It was a big event that shocked the world back then. I'm afraid not many people didn't know about it. When it was revealed back then, it was a shock. A bunch of people. No one could have imagined that there would be people in the world who would dare to challenge the authority of the world government. Dare to show their minions to Tenryubito. That's right, it's this, Vlad continued. You know what? Tenryubito used to stamp their possessions. It's called, what's it called? Hey, what's it called? Tessero, I suddenly can't remember. Vlad chuckled. The hoof tracks of the 9 sky dragons. Tessero spit out these words as if gnashing his teeth. That's right, the hoof tracks of the 9 heavens serpent is called by this name. Vlad continued to tell the story, but you probably didn't know that at the beginning. Tiger was very distressed to settle those slaves, especially fish. Man slaves, after all, are their own countrymen and cannot be ignored like slaves of other races. Quote. What do you mean? Tesoro understood what Vlad was talking about. Listen to me, Vlad was a little dissatisfied. Tiger is very distressed. After all, these marks are so obvious that anyone with a little knowledge will recognize them as former Tenryubito slaves. So, what should we do? How to cover up this scar? Tesoro's eyes were a little erratic, and Vlad's words had a great impact on him. In the end, Tiger came up with a way. Since the imprint cannot be removed, then simply print it on the basis of it to cover up this ugly imprint. So, the Fishman Pirates was born, and so, the sun mark was born. Vlad ended the storytelling mode. So it is, Tesoro looked calm. So there is such a story about the sun mark of the Fishman Pirates. This is a big business opportunity. Even if Tenryubito doesn't want his slaves, he still doesn't want them to be free. Do you think so? Vlad chuckled. Tesoro. That's right, Tesoro laughed. It's valuable information, but you'd be naive if you thought that would get me to agree to cooperate with you. What are you thinking about? Vlad looked a little surprised. What are you talking about? Didn't I say it? I'll make you terrified. Fear. Tesoro's unease became more and more obvious. Just you. Of course not, Vlad laughed. It's not realistic to want a man like you to be feared by my power. Then what do you mean? Tesoro said solemnly. Of course it's not me who should be afraid of you, Vlad whispered. Aren't you the Tenryubitos you should be afraid of? Brush. The surrounding environment changed dramatically in an instant. Everything that was originally turned into going in an instant. Countless glowing tentacles and spikes emerged from all directions, pointing at Vlad sitting on the sofa. Oh, Vlad sighed softly without moving. Are you awake? Use all your strength as soon as you come up. Tell me, Vlad. Tesoro's expression was extremely ferocious, and he was about to choose someone to devour. What do you know? Chapter 22 Confrontation. What do I know? Vlad even showed a smile in the corner of his eyes, and it was obvious that Tesoro's angry appearance was exactly what he wanted. I just know something I should know. Should know something. Tesoro stood up, his face darkened, blue veins bursting out on his forehead, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Then, Vlad, what you should know is that people who know too much often die quickly. Really? Vlad looked a little surprised. I thought intelligence dealers were a promising career. I thought the more I knew, the better my life would be. Am I wrong? Tell me, Vlad, what do you know? Tesoro beckoned gently, and Going, who seemed to be alive, turned into a long snake, twisting and wandering beside Vlad. As long as Tesoro made a gesture, he would kill Vlad with lightning speed. What do I know? Vlad stretched leisurely, leaned gently on the back of the sofa, crossed Erlang's legs, and said with a smile, Actually, I don't know much, I just happen to know some interesting information. However, Tesoro, please take these things back. Vlad stretched out his hand and grabbed a Going spear, broke it lightly, and held it in his hand, not to mention, although it was said to be a Going that was affected by Tesoro's awakening, but before Tesoro's ability was lifted. Or a genuine Going. Really envious, diamond fruit, golden fruit, such as Jozu and Tesoro, never worry about money. With an awakening, everything around can be turned into diamonds and Going, that's great. Take it back. Tesoro shook his head with a grim smile on his face. No need, Vlad, I don't want to know what you know anymore, and I don't want to know why you know these things. As long as I kill you, no one will know about these things anymore. Tesoro said so. Oh. Vlad sighed softly. You're so confident. Tesoro, you're so confident that you can kill me. It's not a question of confidence. Tesoro waved his hand fiercely and roared. It's the question that I must never let you live. Going tentacles that had spread all around, the Going spear instantly stretched, and stabbed towards Vlad at a terrifying speed that was completely invisible to ordinary people. Boom! A huge explosion sounded, and the sofa where Vlad was smashed to pieces, and there was no residue left. It was worthy of the name of Paramesha's awakening. Whether it was strength or speed, it was first-class formidable. Really, do you have such a bad temper? Vlad put his arms around his chest, stood behind Tesoro, and sighed softly, as the shadow that Tenryubito leaves you so big. Go to hell. Hearing the words of Tenryubito, Tesoro's reaction was extremely huge. His eyes were instantly covered with thick bloodshot, and the murderous aura spread to the sky instantly. Crack! The place where Vlad stood instantly burst into a splash of going, and the going bloomed like a wave, becoming very soft, and he wanted to pull Vlad down. Going surged up like dough on the surrounding ground, wrapping directly towards Vlad. Wow, Paramesha's awakening is really troublesome. Vlad's feet trembled lightly. The dragon is out of the water. Although it has a name, it is actually just a flat A, but the power is still there. Going, which had already wrapped Vlad's feet, shattered instantly, and Vlad easily broke free. As I said before, Vlad is a person who is not good at naming names. He admires the man named Zoro who is still hanging out with East Blue very much. Every trick of his has a very high fashion value. Vlad jumped slightly, and the whole person bounced out, directly avoiding the swept-going waves. Vlad landed on the coffee table lightly, and said softly, Tesoro, it seems that you are really a slave to yourself. I am very concerned about my identity. Quote. No problem, Tesoro, I don't care that you were originally a Tenryubito slave. Vlad. Tesoro roared wildly, and the whole room twisted up. Paramesha's devil fruit awakening was really a tricky trick, except that it couldn't be elementalized. It was completely comparable to Logia's devil fruit. The whole room, no, not just the whole room, the whole floor became a flowing going, like a real ocean wave, surging and swept toward Vlad. Boom. A huge amount of going swallowed Vlad in an instant, and then began to twist and spin frantically, forming a strange twisted going spiral mountain. The original top floor of the building has disappeared, and all that remains is this messy platform. Above the sky, the stars twinkle and emit a faint light. Ha, ha, ha. Ha 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 ha. Tesoro laughed, and Vlad had disappeared. You did it yourself, Vlad, don't blame me. Tesoro muttered to himself, the death of all who know my secrets. Really? A voice sounded, with a slight sarcasm and disdain in its tone, it seems that I have to disappoint you. Going under the feet suddenly turned red. The going that had completely solidified turned into a liquid under a huge heat and began to flow slowly. What? Tesoro was shocked and didn't expect that Vlad, who had been buried in going, was still alive. Boom. The golden fire column rose into the sky, the hot going juice splashed everywhere, and it landed on the ground with a sizzling sound. The temperature around him increased exponentially, and Tesoro felt like his skin was burning. In the raging fire column, Tesoro vaguely saw something huge rushing out. The flames did not gradually disappear, but spread everywhere. Yes, it spread on the ground made of going. The going, which was completely impossible to be ignited, was like dried weeds at this moment, causing the surging the flames spread wildly on it. Tesoro, is the real game just now. The huge dragon man vibrated his wings gently and landed gently on the ground. More violent flames roared out from his body, and the entire ruined top floor was instantly ignited. Whether it was going or anything, as soon as he encountered those the flames are all turned into combustibles, which can only make the flames more intense. Chapter 23 Suppress. What is this? Tesoro looked at the huge fiery red figure in panic, and the terrifying oppression made him a little uneasy. I said, Tesoro, isn't it a little too early to celebrate? Vlad's hideous mouth evoked a bloodthirsty smile. The real victory and defeat will only begin now. This is. Tesoro calmed down immediately. After all, he is an old man who has been in the new world for more than 10 years. Although he can't be calm, it is very easy to calm down. Looks like you've got a lot of power. Tesoro's face was gloomy. He knew that Vlad had no devil fruit ability before. After all, when Vlad was the Charlotte family's internal affairs officer, they had bathed together. Germany is at ease. This is obviously Zone's ability. For a fighting technique master like Vlad, Zone's ability is no different from a tiger's wings. The increase in Vlad's strength is extremely huge. Coupled with this flame, this seems to be able to burn everything. The flame, capable of manipulating the power of the flame. Zone, mythical. Tessero frowned tightly, and he felt he had a good chance of winning for Vlad before he obtained the devil fruit ability, although Vlad defeated the 4 generals when he betrayed Charlotte's house. A snag, but the weakest general star is strong, but he can still win if he wants to. Coupled with his home court, Tessero is confident that he can easily defeat Vlad, but he did not expect that in just a few months, Vlad would have obtained a fruit that was strong or very suitable for him. In this case, victory is unpredictable. Informed, Vlad stepped forward, and the raging flames around him became more violent. Zone, mythical, dragon fruit, how is it, not bad? Amazing. Tessero mobilized a going wall expressionlessly to block the roaring flames, but the going wall that didn't cover Hockey couldn't stop the flames from spreading at all, and was instantly enveloped by the flames. Cut. Tessero slammed his right hand, and another wall of going rose to the ground, the dark armament wrapped around it, and the golden flame was finally blocked. Sure enough, Tessero breathed a sigh of relief, and the flames weren't unstoppable. Did Hockey really work? Yeah, Vlad explained with great interest. Hockey can stop my fire, that's for sure, but... Vlad said softly, how many places can your Hockey cover? The raging flames have begun to spread rapidly down the towering buildings, the huge buildings have begun to crumble, the terrifying flames have a strong temperature, and the building has a faint trend of melting. Vlad. Tessero roared loudly. This ship was his painstaking efforts for more than 10 years, and it was a treasure that would never be allowed to be destroyed. What? Vlad gently isho. Does it hurt? Where is this going? Tessero, you have 2 choices now. One is to continue fighting with me. If you can kill me, it's best. If you can't, then don't blame me for being outspoken and give your little secret to that gossip, the bird of the gossip. The bird of gossip. Big news, Morgans, president of the World Economic News. You are courting death. Tessero's tone was very gloomy. Yes, I'm courting death. Vlad beckoned. Come on, come and kill me. Vlad was very curious as to what his own strength can achieve with the fruit of the dragon. Since he has no qualified goals, he has never been able to have a clear understanding of himself. It's just right to meet Tessero now. This man's strength is not weak, especially in his old lair, Bulin, Tessero, where all the goings on the ship are controlled by his ability. Terrifying power. What? Tessero was very surprised. After awakening, Going, who was like a finger armor, suddenly stopped listening. To be precise, the going around is no longer a going. The terrifying flames are attached to it, which has a great difference with the ordinary going. The terrifying high temperature has greatly changed the nature of going, and it is not easy to manipulate them by manipulating going. Ha ha. Vlad smiled and said, it seems that my flame seems to be the nemesis of your Paramesha awakening. Vlad didn't talk big. Paramesha's awakening is to affect the surrounding environment, and can turn the surrounding things into his own ability creation, but Vlad's flame can burn as long as it covers hockey or seawater. In this case, even if whether it is awakening, what should be burned is teriyaki. Cut. Tessero was not reconciled. Should it be me? Vlad stepped on his feet, and the whole person shot out at a terrifying speed. Although it was not an acceleration technique similar to Marine Rokushiki shaved, but with the terrifying physical fitness bonus after Vlad's dragonization at this moment, now his speed has reached a terrifying level that is difficult for ordinary people to reflect. Dragon Fist, Dragon Claws. Although the name is Dragon Claw, it is actually a powerful punch. Armament Hockey, which reflects the coquettish purple light, has wrapped around his arm, and the golden flames spew out, and the terrifying power is contained in it. However, Tessero is not a mediocre person. Although he has always relied on devil fruit, he is someone who has been rolling around in the new world for decades, and of course he is very proficient in mastering hockey. Vlad's speed is very fast, but it is not impossible to fight back. Hockey of observation hockey exists for this. To know that Pluto Rayleigh can block Kizaru with Glint Fruit with observation hockey, it can be seen that observation hockey plays a role in dealing with speed-type opponents. Tessero's arms turned pitch black in an instant, and the fruit ability was not easy to use now, so he could only rely on hockey to fight Vlad. It was also a powerful punch that slammed out, and the air was slightly distorted. Bang! Kara! Tessero flew out, slammed hard on the floor, and slid back for a while, and the raging flames that had occupied the entire roof instantly wrapped him, and the heart-piercing pain came in an instant. Hey! Tessero's body suddenly turned pitch black, armament hockey instantly wrapped his body, and the flames that were raging on him finally went out at this time. At this time, he noticed that his right arm was swollen high, and even the inner hand bones were broken. Ah-ha-ha-ha. Too naive, Tessero. Vlad strolled over, his huge wings flapping gently behind his back, just like observation hockey's cultivation is high and low, armament's hockey also has a hierarchy. You who have always depended on the power of the fruit. Vlad tilted his head. Why do you fight me when you don't use the fruit power? Chapter 24 Fierce Battle. Vlad is not bragging, this is a true fact, just like Zorro of the Straw Hat Pirates said 5 years later, when both sides use armament at the same time, armament is more decisive. The degree of practice, that is to say the level of armament. Vlad's brother, Charlotte Katakuri, was able to punch Luffy's hands high and swollen after armament hardening. You know, Luffy's body is rubber. This way, Vlad's ability to smash the bones of Tessero's hand, who does not rely on fighting technique, is not something to brag about. After all, in the more than 10 years without fruit ability, Vlad has always been in honing his body with hockey. Observation hockey does not say that at least armament has reached a level of qualitative change. Hardness, strength and hockey reserves have been improved qualitatively. Only in this regard, Vlad is still very confident even in the entire Charlotte family. Damn, Tessero stood up holding his right hand, his meticulous back was completely messy at this time, and the scattered hair was messy on his head, looking like a bird's nest. Woo ha 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 ha, how is it? Vlad's tall figure looks extraordinarily magnificent against the flames, like the god of fire. Tessero, do you want to continue fighting? Your odds of winning are not as high as you think. It's not certain who wins and who loses. Tessero's sane left hand jerked. PFF'd. A voice that can be heard clearly even from this towering tower, Vlad VV Ringhead. Ooh. Vlad sighed lightly, and countless goings shot up from every corner of the city, rushing towards it like waves of madness. Cut, wake up, but, it's really troublesome. Vlad was a little unhappy, and the opponent's ability was really difficult. But, hey, Tessero, do you think I don't exist? Vlad's tall figure appeared in front of Tessero again in an instant, the muscles of his whole body were tensed, like a taut longbow, and the huge power was ready to go. It's too slow. The dragon swings its tail. After the armament hockey hardened and the flame entangled the whip leg, it slammed into Tessero's face fiercely. Tessero only felt a majestic terrifying force hit his face directly, and the thin armament was completely unable to resist. Karakara. Tessero's face was completely sunken, and the bones seemed to be in poor condition. Bang! Just like a rocket launch, Tessero's figure, who was kicked away fiercely, flew straight out of the roof of this huge building with a circle of air waves. Hey! Tessero has even lost consciousness, his brain is blank, only a humming noise is left, and it is difficult to do basic thinking. Wow! Vlad stood on the roof, his arms crossed his chest, watching Tessero gradually falling down with interest. Ah ha ha ha. Don't let that guy fall to his death like that. We all know that these creatures that can be used as bosses all have a special ability called the characteristic of thick skin and endurance. Just like the next instance, the boss must have a blood bar that is far beyond ordinary people. This is also applicable to Tessero. Going splash. Quote. With a loud roar, a huge number of goings began to gather under the building, just like 100 rivers returning to the sea. All the goings manipulated by Tessero began to gather below. Trouble. Vlad sighed that Tessero, who did not use the fruit ability, was at a level that would be insulted by him. After all, the fighting technique of that man was really not very good, so hockey was like that, and Vlad's tempered body, even more so. Compared with the high-level hockey, and the ability of the recently obtained dragon fruit, Vlad said that he can beat his shit out of hand-to-hand combat. But this doesn't mean that Tessero is weak. On the contrary, this man's ability is very tricky, or in other words, all abilities after awakening are very tricky. Paramesha is really a pitiful lineage. The most important thing in this city is going, and all goings that Tessero touches can be manipulated by him, which means that now Vlad may have to be an enemy of the city. I'm going, Gundam. Vlad watched helplessly as the huge figure grew from nothing until it stood between the heavens and the earth. It was a giant going structured giant. Yes, it was all made of going. Vlad fluttered his wings gently and jumped down from the roof of the building. The speed was like a phantom, and ordinary people couldn't see his figure at all. Brush. The huge wings spread, and Vlad floated leisurely in front of Tessero, his mouth twitching in amazement. Woo ha 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 ha. This is really spectacular, Tessero. Vlad. Tessero's voice seemed to come out of hell, with a deep killing intent. Now, the second round begins. Going God fire. Tessero roared to announce the start of the second round of battle between the two. Two lasers shot out from the eyes of the huge going giant. The speed was astonishingly fast, perhaps not under Kizaru's laser. Even Vlad's observation hockey had a feeling that it was difficult to react for a while, but since he couldn't avoid it, he didn't have to dodge. Vlad put his hands on his chest, and the dark armament hockey wrapped around it. Scoff tilde. In the fierce collision, the fire was scattered, and the communication between the laser and Vlad was dazzling. Under the huge force, Vlad was pushed back step by step. What a beautiful job. Vlad rolled over and avoided the laser. His arms stinged a little. Even with the double defense of dragon scales and hockey, his arms were still a little red and swollen. It was a powerful move. You are doing so beautifully. Vlad raised his right hand high, and a huge fireball appeared in his palm. Tessero. Tessero threw it violently, and the huge fireball bounced out at a speed that was not at all commensurate with its huge size, smashing towards the going giant. Vlad, just let Lao Su get the fuck over here. Going industry fire. Tessero was very angry at the moment, and he hated Vlad to a certain extent for daring to hurt himself to such a degree. Huge going giant was suddenly wrapped in a thick layer of armor, and then he punched heavily. When the armor collided, a strong flame burst out. Boom. The strong shock wave spread immediately, and the surrounding buildings began to collapse rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 25 Longway. Boom. A strong explosion resounded through the entire ship. At this time, even those with a big heart should have noticed that there was a fierce confrontation on the ship. Smoke cleared. Tessero's appearance quickly caught up in Vlad's eyes. The right arm that the going giant originally hit has been broken, and it was almost destroyed in the violent explosion just now. In addition, there are some small depressions on the body of the going giant. Obviously, Vlad's nameless record, the power of the fireball was amazing, causing huge damage to the going giant. The golden flame was slowly burning on the going giant's body, and it looked like a candle in the wind. PFF'd. Then, the ever-extinguishing flame was finally extinguished. Hoo-oh-oh. Vlad's eyes are neither sad nor happy. Although the flame is quite powerful, it is not his main strength, and he does not care. Sure enough, if you want to deal with your flame, you don't need to harden it at all, just a simple twist is enough. Tessero's voice sounded, and he didn't seem to care about the previous defeat. This way, even me, I can fight for a long time. Tessero is right, Vlad flame can burn on any solid object, provided it is not seawater, and hockey is not attached. This hockey does not need to be hardened, just a simple winding is enough, just use hockey to be separated by flames. Hockey required to entangle is very different from the amount of hockey required to harden, and the cost is also much less, so Tessero isn't kidding about being able to fight for a long time. Brush. The surrounding going began to surge again, like a tadpole looking for its mother, madly rushing towards the going giant. Then, the going giant who appeared in front of Vlad once again was fully recovered. Needless to say, the broken right hand was in good condition. Even the tiny depressions on the body were repaired, the way it was before. Hey hey hey. Vlad scratched his head. Is this cheating? How can anyone say that they have been broken and are being repaired? This is the truth. Tessero raised his right hand, and his huge fist slammed violently with a violent cracking sound. Even from a long distance, Vlad could feel the terrifying power contained in it. Too slow. Vlad fluttered his wings, and his body was like a petrel that has always been agile. He lightly avoided the fist of the going giant. The fist swept through Vlad's body, and the gust of wind even gave him a sense of flying in the storm. Feel. But, Vlad is a dragon, how could a dragon succumb to the storm? Vlad's huge wings slammed, and his body rushed out. Almost in an instant, he flew to the defenseless chest of the giant, and Vlad raised his iron fist. Dragon fist, Dragon King swings claws. The muscles of his right arm were raised high, and the dark armament hockey flashed a purple light at this time, and the flames that were already slightly inclined towards white gold were surging on his fist. Bang! The flames burst open, and the giant's chest also burst open. A huge hole appeared in the giant's chest. Vlad even saw Tessero's shocked face, and the giant flew directly under the huge force. Go out. Bang! The giant retreated again and again, and managed to stabilize his body. Vlad's attack had arrived again, and his speed was indeed too fast. Facing the iron fist raised by Vlad who was already close at hand, Tessero shouted, "Don't be too arrogant, idiot." Going tentacles blasted out from the giant's originally clean chest, towards Vlad in midair. Cut. Vlad had to give up and continue to attack. Although these tentacles were not very strong, it was really annoying just to entangle people. Vlad flapped his wings and dexterously walked through the endless tentacles. The powerful observation hockey cooperated with his fast speed. Facing such a situation, it was really unfavorable. Ha 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 ha. Going industry fire. Tessero's frantic voice sounded, and the huge fist with scorching flames was close at hand. I'm afraid you won't succeed. Vlad knew that it was very difficult to dodge, so he simply did not dodge, and his chest was full of pride. Dragon fist, Dragon King claws. Compared with the giant fist of going giant, Vlad's fist is pitifully small, like an ant shaking a big tree. Bang! The flames soared into the sky, like a flower of flames blooming in the air, looking very beautiful. Kara! The going giant's right fist exploded directly, breaking into pieces of going on the ground. Under the huge impact, the giant stepped back a few steps, and it seemed that the damage was not light. As a price, Vlad was directly punched and flew out, like a cannonball, and smashed directly into a house. Under the majestic force, the area was directly turned into ruins. Cut. Vlad lay in the ruins, his whole body felt a lot of pain, his right hand trembled in vivi, a hole was cut on his head, and blood was flowing out. Mass, the difference in body size is really too big. If you fight, I will be at a loss. Then, Vlad's face began to change. Hey, Vlad, get out of here. The huge going giant has been repaired, and strode towards the ruins where Vlad was galloping. Roar. A huge roar resounded through the sky, and a huge monster roared out of the ruins shrouded in thick smoke. The fiery red body emerged. In terms of body size, it is by no means under the going giant. Such a huge body is undoubtedly Vlad's fire dragon form. This is far greater than the average zone ability, and this is also the benefit of mythical. The appearance of the fire dragon was obviously beyond Tessero's expectations, and he was a little stunned for a while, but Vlad would not give him time to react, and the huge fire dragon flew directly onto the giant. Boom! The huge going giant fell to the ground with a bang, and was pinned to the ground by Vlad. Roar! The raging flames surging out of Vlad's mouth, like a huge torrent of flames, swept the entire area in an instant, with the going giant bearing the brunt. Damn! Tessero felt the surging temperature inside the going giant and couldn't help but scolded. Hockey can resist the flame, yes, but there is also a degree. Such a zero-distance flame jet is still too exciting for the going giant. The huge giant even melting started. Let go of Tessero-sama. Otherwise I can't guarantee this woman's life. A woman's voice came from the side. Vlad didn't stop breathing fire, just glanced at the corner of the building. On the roof next to him, Bakura and Tanaka and a big man kidnapped his little maid. Timely look. Go away, stupid people. The violent dragon's might surged out, the dragon was furious, and a majestic invisible force swept across the audience. The flames raging around had a momentary delay, and bowed his head under this pressure. The surrounding onlookers rolled their eyes instantly and fell down. The three of Bakura bore the brunt of Vlad's care. They only felt that a terrifying dragon was roaring in front of him. His knees went soft and he knelt down unconsciously. Baby 5 took the opportunity to break free. Chapter 26 Compromise. The violent dragon was roaring. The roar of the terrifying monster tore through the clouds, and Vlad's roar produced unexpected results. The idiots around who wanted to watch the fun suddenly fell, more than half of them. After all, this is Longway. Is the gap between biological levels, and is the contempt of dragons for humans. Maid, run away, it's too early for you to fight now. Such a low voice sounded from the huge dragon head, awakening the somewhat stunned baby 5. The maid's discerning Vivi nodded, jumped several times, and left the battlefield. Go away. Asshole. A powerful punch slammed into Vlad's face. Even with his current dragon's strength, he couldn't help but staggered, releasing the suppression of the going giant. Facts have proved that the interference of Bakura and several people is not ineffective. At least it saved Tessero's life. If it is not for them to distract Vlad's attention, Tessero is likely to be burned alive. Vlad took 2 steps back and stood firm. It has to be said that even after a few months of adaptation, it is still a little uncomfortable to land on all fours in the form of a giant dragon. Although the strength, defense and physical strength have improved qualitatively, however, in the end, it was not easy to use the humanoid. The going giant feels very bad now, showing a semi-melted state. Most of the originally solid going has been turned into a liquid state by the flames, and it converges drop by drop into a small stream flowing down from the giant's body. Do you want to continue? Vlad smiled and said, Tessero, I'm a little scared if I fight again. Giant dragon roared. I'm really afraid to beat you to death. Vlad. The giant's voice spread throughout the night sky. It was hatred that could not be suppressed no matter what, and it was a word with a sure kill belief. Is that so? Vlad said softly. Since that's the case, I see your decision, then. Don't blame me for dying. Tessero. Accompanied by an earth-shattering roar, the huge fire dragon flapped its wings violently, and the huge outrageous body shot out like it was equipped with an accelerator. Without waiting for the going giant to react, it had already rushed in front of the giant in an instant. The dark giant claws were raised high, the blood vessels on the thick forelimbs covered by scales were protruding, and the muscles were congested. True, Dragon King waving his claws. Brush. Flash of black light, the giant dragon has passed by the giant going. Karakara. The huge going giant slowly cracked open, and several huge cracks gradually appeared in the body of the originally majestic giant. It couldn't support it any longer, and fell to the ground, breaking into a pile of going fragments. Crack. The changes continued, and it wasn't just the going giant that was cracking. On the solid ground of Gulen, Texelo, several huge cracks appeared silently, several meters wide, unfathomable, and spread far into the distance. How is it? Vlad whispered. Are you admitting defeat? Tessero, who was not lightly injured, was caught by Vlad in his hands. He looked very bad and his expression was very angry. Admit defeat. Tessero growled. What are you kidding? Who do you think Lao Su is? Vlad. Along with Tessero's roar, the whole city changed dramatically. Unlimited going poured out from all corners of the city and quickly gathered together. If the going manipulated by Tessero before was like a small river, then the current scale, it is not an exaggeration to say that it is the sea of going. Are you sure? Vlad said seriously. Tessero, are you sure you want to continue fighting with me? I admit, it's almost a very hard thing for me to beat you if you start a whole city going, but, Tessero, are you so confident that you can kill me? Vlad showed a mocking smile. I'm a fire dragon, I can fly, are you sure you can catch up with me? Tessero couldn't help but suffocate, and the originally surging going waves also paused a bit. Vlad knew that it worked, so he said, since you can't kill me, what's the point of fighting again? If you really pissed me off, I don't think I need to tell you the consequences, you know it all yourself. Tenryubito is such a disgusting race, even the playthings that they have abandoned will never let them free, you know, Tessero. Vlad let go of his grip and threw Tessero directly to the ground. Then he changed back to his dragon-like appearance and sat cross-legged on the ground. The flames were burning, but there was no need to worry about anyone hearing their conversation. If I break this out, the hyenas will react quickly, not just because of who you are. Vlad tried his best to use the words carefully, but the slave never said these words. Because of your wealth, this ship, the wealth represented by Quran, Tassolo, you are the master and you know it better than I do. Those guys, Tenryubito, the world government must have been coveting you for a long time. Once you've given them a valid reason, do you think they'll be indifferent? At that time, I'm afraid it will be Marine's fleet or CP's spy. So what? Tessero replied expressionlessly. This is the new world, the sea area for monsters. It is not so easy for the world government to be arrogant. Really? Vlad smiled and said, you are very confident. In fact, it's very easy for the world government to move you. It doesn't have to be so troublesome at all. It only needs a few CP0 agents and a marine admiral to destroy the ship. Let's clean up. Why are you fighting against them? So. Tessero's face twitched. Obviously he was just talking hard just now. After all, in the new world, only the 4 emperors can really compete with Marine and the world government. He is not qualified, this is an indisputable fact. So, are you threatening me? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong if you think so. Vlad said softly. However, I prefer that you call it cooperation. I just want to cooperate with you. After all, exposing your secrets will not benefit me in the slightest. On the contrary, I can get more from you. Many benefits. Quote. So, Tessero stood up. His expression was very calm, and he didn't see the madness before, as expected of an old fritter who has been rolling around in the new world for decades, and has an excellent grasp of emotions. Are you ready for me? I said, it's cooperation. Vlad raised a finger, or, form an alliance. I don't mean to extract benefits from you. Quote. Tessero was silent for a long time, then said, follow me. Vlad VV Isho, knowing that Tessero had compromised, gave a gentle wave and the flames that were raging around the ship were instantly extinguished. Chapter 27 Happy Cooperation. Fortunately, Vlad knew that he and Tessero would not fight endlessly during the previous battle. He was quite confident that he could compromise with Tessero. After all, his own strength was placed there. Tessero can't kill himself, he can't kill himself, he can only hope to seal his mouth. Vlad knows Tessero's psychology very well. After all, there is no doubt that this is what Tessero is most afraid of. His nightmare, even after decades, even with enough wealth, power, there is still something to be afraid of. After all, the guy who shadowed him is the most powerful group of people in the world. So naturally, Compromise is a reasonable thing. As long as Tessero doesn't want to die, then he will definitely compromise. Vlad is 100% sure about this matter. So he didn't set the fire too much. After all, if the boat was burnt out to others, and the two of them cooperated afterwards, I always felt a little sorry for others, so the flames looked turbulent, but they were only spreading in this area. And did not spread outward, which is really a blessing in misfortune for Tessero. Go ahead. In an intact room, two men who had been fighting just now were sitting opposite each other. Tessero simply wrapped some bandages on his head and sat on the sofa, staring at the man opposite, and said solemnly, "Tell me what you think, let me see, what do you mean by cooperation, no, alliance?" Vlad leaned leisurely on the sofa, the shallow wound on his head had long since scarred, and he didn't seem to be hurt at all. Vlad didn't answer Tessero's words, and asked softly, "Is there any dessert? I feel that the sugar in my body is not enough, and I feel that my body has no strength." Tessero is not surprised either. After all, it is not suitable for Vlad to deal with for the first time. The two have cooperated many times before. He still knows Vlad's habits quite well. Although this man has left the Charlotte family, but he is still the son of Charlotte Linlin, and he has inherited his aunt's genes very well for his fondness for sweets. Tessero took out a phone bug out of nowhere and dialed it out, and soon Baccarat's panicked voice came from there. "Master Tessero, are you all right?" "It's all right, Baccarat, the fight is over," Tessero replied. Then, Baccarat was eager to ask something. After all, everyone saw it at that time. Vlad had the upper hand, and Tessero was in a bad situation. Tessero whispered, "I'm not doing well, do you know where I am?" "Yes." Baccarat over there replied, "The phone bug you are using has a location, and I know your location very well." "That's good," Tessero said. "Let Tanaka send me a dessert. Well, let's add another meal. I'm a little hungry too." Baccarat was a little stunned, but quickly replied, "Yes, Lord Tessero." Tessero hung up the phone, looked up at Vlad, and said, "Can we talk now?" "The alliance you said." "Hey," Vlad said lazily, leaning on the sofa, "what are you panicking about? I'm not in a hurry at this moment. Would you like me to add sugar for energy? I don't even want to move if I don't have sugar." Tessero was speechless. Fortunately, Tessero had a really high status in his heart, and soon, the big-headed monster came in through the wall with a big plate on. "Master Tessero," Tanaka gently placed the dessert and the rice Tessero asked for, and said softly, "If there is nothing else, I'll go down first." Tessero nodded, and Tanaka consciously backed out. He didn't look at Vlad from the beginning, as if he didn't wonder why the two of them fought to death before, and now they look like brothers. Vlad didn't care either. After all, Tessero didn't like desserts. The reason why he called desserts was obviously for Vlad. From this, Tessero's subordinates could understand the current situation of the two of them. Not difficult. Vlad's eyes lit up, completely ignoring Tessero, and all his energy was devoted to the great task of fighting the dessert. Tessero didn't take it seriously. He knew exactly what Vlad looked like in front of dessert. Although he didn't admit that he was also a crazy dessert controller, in fact, anyone with eyes could clearly see that it was him. It's useless to deny anything. While Vlad was feasting, Tessero also started eating slowly. After all, he had consumed a lot of stamina in the previous battle, and he was already a little hungry. It is undoubtedly a good choice to replenish some stamina now. After a long time, Vlad finally recovered from the dessert state. When he looked up and saw Tessero, who had been waiting for a while, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. "Sorry, I haven't eaten your dessert here for a long time, really very nice." Later, Vlad realized what was wrong and added, "Don't get me wrong, I'm not the kind of person who likes desserts like a life, I just want to eat some occasionally." Tessero nodded knowingly, but he didn't take it seriously, and asked, "So, can you say, what do you mean by alliance?" Tessero. Vlad showed a bright smile, "What do you think of this sea?" "How about what?" Tessero couldn't come back to his senses. It's the sea right now, Vlad whispered. Do you think she's a little too calm? What do you mean? Tessero was a little wary, and being able to say such a thing is enough to show that Vlad is a man of great intentions. The 4 emperors have been around for too long. Vlad said, the new world is like a pool of stagnant water. The magnificent scene when the era of the great pirates opened has long been lost. What the hell do you mean? Tessero wondered. I mean, this sea is so calm. Vlad's eyes flashed with feverish brilliance. Such calmness is unbearable, and the calmness of the new world is about to suffocate me. I have a plan, a very interesting plan. Vlad stretched out his hand towards Tessero and said with a smile, Tessero, are you interested in coming with me and turning this ocean upside down? Quote. Tell me. A long time, Tessero replied. Woo ha 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 ha. Vlad laughed. Should we say in advance that we are happy to cooperate? Chapter 28 Senju. In some dimly lit rooms, Tessero couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. After listening to Vlad's plan, even if he was as calm as he was, he couldn't help feeling heart palpitations. How bold you are. Tessero let out a long sigh and sighed, don't tell me you're serious. Why not underscore. The powerhouses of the new era are gradually emerging, those old guys are really annoying. Hee hee. Tessero sneered, you are too arrogant. Vlad, are you so sure that you will have a place in the new era? If the new era will come as you said. Is there any reason not to? Tessero. Vlad chuckled, it's not that I'm arrogant, it's that I know myself very well, and I'm convinced that Ferdinando Vlad will never be worse than anyone else, and I will indeed be in the new position. The times set off a frenzy. Ha 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 ha. Tessero laughed. How can you really say it, Vlad? Anyone can speak big words, and everyone will let them go, but what? Vlad, real heroes don't speak with their mouths. Tessero. Vlad looked at Tessero dangerously, his tone a little low. Are you trying to get beaten again? Humph. Tessero snorted coldly. You can try. Tessero was not too convinced about the previous battle. Although he was caught by Vlad in the end and the two sides reconciled, it did not mean that he thought he was weaker than Vlad. Going is under his control, and once fully released, it is enough to turn the city into a sea of going in an instant. Forget it, forget it. Vlad waved his hand in disinterest. It's boring, it's boring. Vlad. The way Tessero gritted his teeth, this man really looked down on people a little too much. Ah. Vlad sat next to Tessero, hugged Tessero's neck affectionately, and smiled. Don't be angry, don't be angry. Tessero. Humph. Tessero sneered in response. So, Vlad laughed, what do you think? Now, talk about it, Tessero, what do you think of my plan? How is it? Tessero sneered. What else? All I can say is, the success rate is high. Although it looks very risky, but if you look closely, the success rate is really high. Maybe it's really possible, it can really pull that person down, and maybe it will really bring a new era. Woo ha 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 ha. Vlad tightly wrapped his arms around Tessero's neck. Sure enough, you understand me, woo ha ha ha. I'm so moved. Go away. Tessero broke away Vlad's iron arms that almost strangled him, and said unhappily, indeed, Vlad, your plan is very feasible, but Vlad, have you considered it? Have you thought about what happens when you fail? Failure. Vlad looked at Tessero strangely, as if to ask why you asked such a stupid question. Where did this failure come from? Ha ha ha. Tessero laughed. Vlad, should I praise your confidence or laugh at your arrogance? Why do you think you can't fail? Failure. Vlad's eyes were calm. No, there will be no failure. There is no such thing, either success or death. Isn't there always only these two choices? Quote. Tessero looked at Vlad, and a smile gradually emerged from the corner of his mouth. You bastard. To use a sentence, Vlad laughed. If I fall down on the road, it just means that I am a man who is nothing more than that. If my measure is nothing more than that, then it is better to live than to die. Sooner or later a new era will come, I believe so much, but when it will come is uncertain. If it is too late, then let me pull it over with my hands. Vlad's tone was decisive. Ever since he came to this magnificent world, he never planned to be as mediocre as he was in his previous life and finally die in a corner that no one knew about. He finally came to this world where heroes stand side by side. Make a big move, isn't that stupid? Vlad is serious, a flame is burning in his heart, constantly urging him to fight, destroy, conquer, and let him turn the world upside down. For this reason, it doesn't matter if it is death, isn't it cool to be able to die for one's own ideals? Vlad would never want to die again in his life. Even if he died, he wanted to be like Whitebeard. The whole sea was celebrating and the whole world was rejoicing. That was the way to die for a man. Ha 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 ha. Tesoro laughed. I've known you for so many years, I just found out today, Vlad. No, Ferdinando Vlad, you are such an interesting person. To each other, Vlad smiled back. Guild Tesoro, you're an amazing man too. Crack. The two big hands clapped together. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Blue blue blue. The short call broke the harmonious atmosphere between the two, and the phone bug on one side began to call frantically. Tesoro frowned and picked up the phone bug. Who? Baccarat. Baccarat. Who? From the other side of the phone came a deep male voice. I don't know. I don't know who you are talking about. Could it be the woman I knocked out just now? Oh, by the way, the phone bug is still on her body. Found. Che, has it been discovered yet? Hearing that voice, Vlad couldn't help sighing. Who are you? Tesoro's tone was very unfriendly, and the anger in his heart could not be suppressed. Although Baccarat was very weak, he was still a partner who had been fighting with him for more than 10 years, and his status in his heart was still very high. He would never allow her to be bullied by others. What did you do to Baccarat? Don't worry, you can't die. The man over there laughed. Hey, Tesoro, is Vlad next to you? Let him talk to me. Quote ellipsis quote. Tesoro looked back at Vlad, and there was a flash of enlightenment in his eyes. He already knew who the person on the phone was. After all, there were not many people who came to the ship tonight who knew Vlad. Vlad took the phone bug from Tesoro's hand and smiled. Long time no see, brother Cracker. On the other side of the phone, it was none other than the big cadre of the Big Mom Pirates, the 10 sons of the Charlotte family, one of the 3 desert generals, Charlotte Cracker known as Thousand Hands Cracker, and Vlad's brother. Chapter 29 Face to Face. Yo, is that Vlad? Cracker's voiceover there was extremely low, with lingering anger in it. It's been a long time. Yeah, Vlad looked calm and composed. It's been a long time since I saw it. It's probably more than 3 months in total, right? It's really been a while. Ha 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 ha. Cracker over there suddenly burst out laughing. Sure enough, you guy has no intention of repenting at all. Repent? Vlad replied with a smile. What are you talking about? Brother Cracker, I did nothing wrong. Whatever you say. Cracker said coldly, I'll be waiting for you on Eland Island, come over and we'll have a good chat. Yeah Tilda, Vlad said with a smile, what are you kidding? Brother Cracker, do you think I'm a fool? Come over and challenge you to one-on-one. It's up to you, Cracker said confidently. But if you still want your maid's life, I advise you to come once. Let go of my mother, you bastard. Be quiet, woman. With this sound, the phone hangs up. Woo. Vlad let out a long sigh. He didn't think that he could avoid it or be found by Cracker. When he was watching Tesoro's execution, he noticed Cracker in the crowd, so he took the maid to avoid it. At that time, it was not the time to conflict with Cracker, including now, because it is meaningless. It is difficult to handle whether it is a win or a loss. If you lose, you will undoubtedly be arrested back to the Big Mom group. With Charlotte Linlin's ferocity personality, that is equivalent to dead and not running. If he wins, it is also difficult to handle. Not to mention that the conflict with Charlotte's family will be even greater. Just talking about Vlad himself, he can't do anything. Cracker is his brother after all, and he has taken good care of him since he was a child. There is no doubt that it is his relatives who are connected by flesh and blood. How could he be so cruel to such an opponent? Forget it, the car must have a way to the front of the mountain. Vlad stood up and decided to take a look first. After all, he finally found a maid who could take care of him, and he didn't want to lose it like this. Going. Tesoro handed a pointer. Ah, said Vlad with a smile, you still have to go there, you can't let people come back without success. Ha ha ha, Tesoro laughed, then you have to be careful, if you can't come back like this, our cooperation will end here. You don't need to say this. Vlad turned and walked out the door. Don't want a boat? Tesoro asked. No need, Vlad looked at the pointer on his hand. In a short time, he won't be able to get very far. I'm afraid that Eland Island is not far, right? I'll just fly over there. As you wish. Dash 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 dash. Eland Island is an uninhabited island. Unlike the deserted island where Vlad found the fruit of the dragon before, this uninhabited island is in a state of being shelved for development. It appeared on the chart of the New World a long time ago, but the island there is really nothing worth developing in the last barren land. The area is small and unprofitable, so no one will be interested in it. Only the pirates will occasionally repair it here, which is an incomplete uninhabited island. Now, there are traces of people on the small island. 2 people, 1 man and 1 woman. The man was tall, with a helmet on his head, decorated with black mane, 2 horns extending from the peeping sides, and he was wearing an armor that looked like a biscuit. With no expression on his face. The woman fell at his feet, looking unconscious, but there was no injury on her body. It was none other than the personal maid and part-time pastry chef Vlad recently subdued, Baby 5. Vlad. Man muttered. Vlad, you kid, you kid. Well. The man stood up, a little surprised. Is it here? So fast. In the distance, a fiery red shadow has gradually emerged in the sky, approaching the island at a terrifying speed. Sure enough. Man muttered to himself, have you got some great power? Vlad. Dash 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 dash. The huge fire dragon swept across the sea, bringing up waves several meters high. Vlad's trembling wings were extremely fast. It didn't take long for the small island named Eland to appear in his sight. The visual acuity of the fire dragon is not covered. The keen observation Hockey had already sensed the aura on the island. It was a powerful aura that had no hidden meaning, and was nakedly venting his sense of existence. Vlad vigorously flapped his wings, the speed increased again, and the strong wind pressure formed a huge wave on the sea, surging towards the distance. Under the repeated acceleration of Vlad, Eland Island, which was originally small in size, was very close. In the middle of the small island without any shelter, the man who looked very rough also appeared in Vlad. German eyes. You tilde. With a long dragon roar, Vlad flapped his wings, fanned the dust all over the ground, and the huge fire dragon fell to the ground. Vlad released his dragon form and returned to his normal appearance. He took 2 steps forward and stood face to face with Cracker. Hey, Vlad spread his hands, a little helpless. Brother Cracker, don't you want to come out of your biscuits even in the face of me? Yes, the current Cracker is not his real appearance, just a layer of armor. Few people have seen his real appearance except for the Charlotte family. Even the Cracker on the wanted list issued by Marine looks like this. Not to mention, he is really well hidden. This is not to say that Cracker has the intention to hide himself, nor that the biscuit armor increases his combat power. On the contrary, Cracker who is out of the armor is more advanced. There is only one reason for him to hide in the biscuit armor, and that is a very funny reason. I am afraid many people will not believe it. A very simple reason. It's just because Cracker is afraid of pain. That's right, just because he's afraid of pain. And it's not ordinary pain. His resistance to pain can already match Katakori's obsession with afternoon tea donuts. On the other hand, even the pain like an injection is unbearable, and no one will believe that one of the 3 stars of Charlotte's family is like this. To be said that Charlotte's family often has some strange obsessions, Vlad thinks so. The real look is shown to the family. Vlad, who you are now? Cracker stood up with a gloomy tone. Are you still my family now? Answer me, Vlad. Chapter 30 Confrontation. Facing Cracker's question, Vlad didn't seem hesitant at all, and smiled naturally. Of course, brother Cracker, although I left Charlotte's house, the relationship between us is not so easily cut off. Existences like family are connected even if they are not together. Quote. Really, do you think so? Cracker whispered. Yes, brother, there is no doubt about it. It is not a contradiction to leave the kingdom and continue to treat you as family. Vlad replied with a smile. Rolls, pretzels. Cracker roared loudly, the long sword in his hand spun sharply, the spiral sword she was attached to it, and the tall biscuit armor held the long sword that was now similar to a knight's spear and stabbed at Vlad fiercely. Are you still going to fight? Vlad was a little helpless. He knew too much about himself as Cracker's older brother, so he didn't say enough about his strength. The strength of the top Big Mom pirate group was, after all, a man among the 3 generals. He is extremely confident in his own strength, and likes to act alone the most. This time, his attack on him is probably just a temporary intention. It may just be because he was seen by him when he fought with Tessero before. Happens that Cracker is the kind of man who hates betrayal very much, and is very loyal to Big Mom, so it is not surprising that he will come to trouble Vlad. Since you also treat us as family, why betray you? The huge spiral sword with extremely sharp sword energy has come, and the tall biscuit armor roared. Armed. Vlad groaned, his right hand was covered with a layer of black hockey. Dragon claws. Kara. Vlad's powerful punch slammed directly on Cracker's sharp sword tip, and a surging air wave emerged spontaneously, sweeping across the surrounding wasteland like a gust of wind, and dust flew for a while. Vlad. Cracker took 2 steps back under the huge impact, and then raised the long sword in his hand again. A dark color spread up, and the whole sword was completely hardened by armament hockey. Brush. Cracker didn't mean to keep his hand at all, and slashed directly at Vlad's head with a fierce sword. Since you have chosen to betray, you are ready for punishment. Betrayal. Fiery red scales spread on his body, Vlad's black eyes began to change to golden yellow, and his pupils became narrow and long. You're wrong, brother Cracker. The golden flames rose into the sky, and began to spread on the island with an aura that devoured everything. I never thought of myself as a member of the nations. That would be called a betrayal. The right arm covered with hard scales blasted out with unparalleled momentum under armament hockey's blessing. Kang. A dull explosion resounded all around, and Cracker, covered by the tall biscuit armor, was directly knocked out by Vlad's heavy punch, took a few steps back, and stood not far away. Brother Cracker, don't get me wrong, I consider you my brothers and sisters, there is no doubt about that. Vlad's humanized body is no less tall than Cracker's biscuit armor. He shook his head and said with a slight disdain, this is because you also treat me as a brother, but Cracker brother, that mad woman is not among them. Vlad. Cracker couldn't hold back his anger when he heard Vlad's words. Although Big Mom Charlotte Linlin is an out-and-out neurosis, it's strange that her reputation in the Charlotte family is unparalleled. Even though the number of her own children who died at her hands was not small, the rest of the children still respected her very much. Perhaps this is the characteristic of the world of One Piece, King of Pirates. The strong were respected, because the crazy woman has unparalleled terrifying power, so everyone respects her. Cracker is undoubtedly one of the most supporters of Charlotte Linlin. When he first heard Vlad's remarks, his heart was filled with anger. You, better show me some respect to Mom. You son of a bitch. PFF'd. With a soft sound, Cracker Cracker's body suddenly grew out of a pair of arms, each holding a long sword. Double, roll, pretzel. Quote. Two long swords attached to the powerful armament hockey stabbed towards Vlad at a rapid speed. I've said it long ago, who thinks she's a mother? Vlad's wings vivi fluttered, and the huge body suddenly became like a phantom, shifting its position in an instant, directly dodging Cracker's two long swords. Damn. Cracker's pupils shrank. Does such a huge body actually have such a good speed? It's really amazing, the fruit of the dragon. Vlad bullied Cracker's body, the muscles on his ready right hand were high, and the dark hockey and the golden flame showed a sharp contrast. Dragon fist, dragon king claws. Vlad's right hand with the potential of wind and thunder slammed heavily on the chest of Cracker's biscuit armor. Hard biscuits. Cracker wasn't weak either. Seeing Vlad's attack came in a flash, armament's hockey quickly attached, and the biscuit armor on his chest was instantly covered with a dark layer of hockey. Bang! A loud bang, Cracker's tall biscuit armor flew far away. Kara! The clear audible cracking sound echoed in Vlad's ears, and he couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Cracker's biscuit armor was a little too hard. Yes, Vlad. Cracker stopped his body and raised his head. There was no expression on his stiff face, and the huge cracks clearly visible on the armor on his chest were spreading recklessly. I haven't seen you for a few months. Has your strength reached this point? At this point. Vlad Vivi frowned. What are you talking about? Brother Cracker, I just warmed up a little bit. It's too early to say that my strength has reached such a level. Oh. Cracker smiled. Vlad, after leaving the family, you are far less humble than before. Because it's no longer necessary. Vlad smiled and said, since I left the family, my adventure has already begun. Since it is my own story, it is meaningless to hide it. What I want is the most magnificent adventure, rather than a safe trip. Quote. You can really talk as always. Vlad. Cracker said gloomily. I just don't know if your fists are as powerful as you said. Just try. Vlad Hardy Isho. Cookie soldiers. Cracker whispered. Chapter 31 Closing. Cookie soldiers. Before Cracker finished speaking, a strange change had taken place. Countless cookie crumbs were flying in the air, and it looked like a cookie rain had suddenly fallen in the sky. Then, like all of a sudden, the cracker crumbs began to gather and merge, and soon, 5 cracker soldiers exactly like Cracker had appeared between the two. Vlad, ask you one last time. Cracker exhaled slowly and decided to give his brother one last chance. Would you like to go back with me and accept Mother's trial? It's okay if you're scared, either me or the other brothers will beg for you. Vlad's heart warmed, but he still had to do what he had to do. He had already decided to go to sea, so he wouldn't change his mind because of such a thing. Brother Cracker, I have already said the same thing to Brother Katakuri. I am chasing the most free and broad sea, the location of One Piece, King of Pirates. Let me go back to the bondage of that crazy woman. That is impossible. From the day I decided to go to sea, I have made my decision. I can only fight to the death and never give in. Judgment. No one in the world can judge me. No one. It's a funny thing to have people judge people. Really? Cracker took a deep breath. Looks like you're determined to betray. Then, don't blame me, Vlad. I'm not as kind as Brother Katakuri. I'll break your limbs, brought you back. Try it. Vlad chuckled. Then take it. As soon as Cracker finished speaking, 5 burly biscuit soldiers rushed towards Vlad at a terrifying speed. These biscuit soldiers are not something to mess with. Although the material is biscuit, the actual combat effectiveness is indeed far beyond everyone's imagination. 5 years later, Monkey D. Luffy would have to open 4th gear to be able to barely break the biscuit soldiers. It shows their toughness. This is definitely not a trick that ordinary people can do. You know, Luffy's 4th gear can break the man called Doflamingo. It was flying all over the place. Even if the disembodied biscuit soldiers can't attach hockey, their hardness cannot be compared with the body, but this is unquestionably strong. Even in this new world, there are only a few people who can defeat these soldiers. However, for Vlad, these powerful biscuit soldiers are not that powerful. It does not mean that his destructive power has surpassed Luffy's fourth block. To be honest, the destructive power of fourth block is extremely terrifying, which can make Luffy and Charlotte Linlin takes a punch, which is not something anyone can do. Vlad thought to himself that he would have to be completely dragon-like to have the ability to wrestle with the fourth gear. Monkey D. Luffy is indeed a genius, and his not-so-good rubber fruit made him play. In this regard, he is somewhat similar to Don Quixote da Flamingo, the same fruit that is not very strong, and has also developed to a terrifying realm. It would be exhausting for others to deal with these biscuit soldiers, but it was not so difficult for Vlad. After all, those biscuit soldiers couldn't attach hockey, which meant that. Brother Cracker, what a pity. Golden flames began to emerge from Vlad's body. My ability really restrains you. Boom. The flames surged out, like a huge wave of flames rising from a sea of flames, sweeping away in an instant. Flame, what's the use of it? Cracker is very disdainful. The only weakness of his biscuits is water. Only water can make his biscuits soft. Although the flame is powerful, it will never be the nemesis of his biscuits. After all, his biscuits are not easy to burn. And trying to melt Cracker's biscuits is an elusive thing. However, what happened next far exceeded his expectations. Vlad's flame was not an ordinary flame. He soon realized it. The burning flame is not a normal thing by any means. Sure enough, these flames don't just spread over rocks. It turns out that your own biscuits are also objects that flames can burn. The 5 tall and burly biscuit soldiers were quickly enveloped by the raging flames, and the hard biscuit material began to disintegrate and melt little by little under the terrifying golden flame. Before they could reach Vlad, the 5 indestructible biscuit soldiers had already been burned to ashes. Cracker's face was gloomy. Although he couldn't see his face through the biscuit armor, he didn't know whether he was gloomy or not, but Vlad estimated that his mood was definitely not very beautiful at this time. Amazing, Vlad. Is this what you rely on? Cracker's tone was very low. After all, it was really humiliating to be slapped in the face as a big brother in front of his younger brother. Not all. Vlad laughed, but it's definitely enough to deal with Brother Cracker, your biscuit soldiers. The flames were raging, and this small island was completely covered by the spreading flames. There were only 2 places that were not covered by flames. One was where Vlad's maid, Baby 5, lay. After all, Vlad came to save her, not to kill her. Other is naturally Cracker's body. The biscuit armor wrapped around hockey is not something that Vlad's flames can attach to. Cracker hiding in the biscuit soldier also felt a strong enthusiasm. In addition to the characteristics of Vlad's flame, the ultra-high temperature is also a part that should not be underestimated, although it is far from enough. To the point where the bald man next door evaporates the world, but a 2,000 or 3,000 degrees is still appropriate. Do you think you're ready for me? Cracker said so. Of course not, Brother Cracker. Vlad smiled and said, ability is only support, the real power is people. I don't underestimate you at all. This is no joke. Cracker's own strength should not be underestimated, regardless of his ability. He is a man who can cut through the 4th gear Luffy's arm with one sword. This is something that Doflamingo has never done. But, Brother Cracker, my purpose has been achieved. Vlad gently picked up the maid who was lying at his feet and said with a smile, since the goal has been achieved, there is no need to continue fighting. Brother Cracker, our outcome will be decided later when I attack the nations. Vlad fluttered his wings gently, and the whole person rose into the sky, without fighting, and flew away bluntly. Vlad. Cracker stayed where he was, shouting. Huh. Vlad stopped. Quote. A moment of silence. Cracker's voice sounded again. Don't die, Cracker said solemnly. Our battle is not over yet. Woo-ha-ha. Vlad didn't speak, and flew away with a big laugh. Grow up, you bastard. Soon after, People who passed through this sea found that Eland Island had disappeared. Chapter 32 Maid Development Program. Hey, really, maid, you really don't make people worry. Vlad flapped his wings and soared over the endless sea, and the maid in his hand was already awake. Sorry, Lord Vlad. Tears flashed in the maid's eyes, and she answered Vlad very guiltily. That man is too strong, I don't have the strength to fight back. Bullshit. Vlad said angrily. Who do you think you are? Who do you think that man is? It's 50 years too early for you to fight him. The maid looked a little timid. Obviously she was taught a lesson by Cracker, who had no pity on her, and there was a big bag on her head. That man is one of Charlotte's 3 desert generals, a well-deserved high-level powerhouse in the New World, just like you. Vlad's mouth twitched. I'm afraid I'm not qualified to play against him in my life. Vlad is not alarmist. Although Baby 5 Feet's fruit ability is very powerful, weapon fruit can not only be turned into cold weapons, the artillery changed by BABY5 is proof. That is to say, as long as Baby 5 understands the structure, even antimatter guns, star destroyers and even two-way foils can be made. The only premise is that Baby 5 can understand how these weapons are made and her own physical strength be enough. Although the world of One Piece King of Pirates does not have these destructions, and even destroying the world is an easy terrorist weapon, but, don't forget, the world of One Piece King of Pirates itself has a lot of black technology, such as pacifist. Another example is Pluto, the legendary terrifying warship that can destroy an island with a single shot. Although such a thing is far less than the black technology that destroys the planet at the click of a finger, it is also a king in this One Piece King of Pirates world. Enough. This is Vlad's expectation for BABY5. Maybe, this weak and dying woman may really reach such a level in the future, not to mention the awakening level of devil fruit. Think about it, everyone, think about it. What kind of grand occasion would the Baby 5 Feet's weapon fruit be awakened? Even if it wasn't the Pluto, the pacifist, at least the artillery everywhere would be very easy, right? At that time, the maid was a one-man army and could provide fire support for more than dozens of warships. It was so terrifying. But these prospects are limited to thinking for now. After all, the maid named BABY5 is really weak, let alone awakening. She is even developing her own fruit now, right? Horrible to see, such a powerful fruit is really wasted. How should I put it? Maybe it's Oda's malice. Many of these powerful fruits have been eaten by some inexplicable weaklings. Think about it, everyone, think about it. If the childlike fruit is used by a fighting technique expert like Garp Zephyr after eating, who else in the sea can withstand a trick? Vlad is also a little helpless. The weapon fruit is undoubtedly a very powerful fruit. It can change the powerful ability of any weapon. As long as there are blueprints, Gundam is not a dream. It's a pity that the BABY5 is really weak. Just like Vlad said, the current Baby 5 will not be eligible to play against the current Charlotte Cracker in 50 years. The gap between the two sides is clear at a glance. Although Cracker's biscuit fruit is really not strong, it is even more different than weapon fruit, but the difference in strength between the two sides is completely different, which is actually quite frustrating. The reason was, of course, the difference between people. There was no strong fruit, only strong people. Even if Whitebeard ate the whispering fruit, it was as strong and terrifying. There was no doubt about it. The biggest gap between Baby 5 and the first-class masters on the sea like Vlad Cracker is not on the fruit, but the strength of the body. Physique and hockey is the real strength, and the physical strength can support the use of stronger fruit abilities. Hockey can resist damage, enhance attack. And these, Baby 5 doesn't have one now, it's really useless. Vlad doesn't understand why Baby 5 obviously has such powerful abilities, but the sea hooligan can turn a blind eye. It's really enough. On the other hand, look at his top cadres, what kind of crooked melons and cracked dates are, except for Virgo in the pickup truck that claims to be able to kill Fujitora Admiral alone, what are the other two? Saying they shit is an insult to the word shit, okay. This level is still the top cadre of Shichibukai. Moria's subordinates are more useful than them. I really don't understand. Like baby 5, and the owner of that burst fruit is a very powerful fruit, but it can't be developed. I really don't understand the idea of that turkey. But since Vlad has taken over baby 5 now, since this maid has become his subordinate, he certainly can't let this powerful fruit sink like this inexplicably. The maid development plan can already be put on the agenda. After all, it is the first crew member of my own. If it is too weak, it would be a shame. You see, the first crew member of Luffy is Zoro, the first crew member of Roger is Rayleigh. The first crew member was a maid who only served tea and poured water and occasionally wanted to beat the captain. Isn't it too embarrassing? Never let baby 5 go to waste like this. Golden light flashed in Vlad's eyes, and his eyes towards the maid became more and more unkind, with a playful smile on the corner of his cracked mouth. Don't get me wrong, Vlad is not a shaky S, he just prefers the feeling of training people. Lord Vlad. Baby 5 felt that the captain's eyes were not right, and asked with some guilty conscience, "What's wrong with you looking at me like that?" "Oh, nothing, I just think your strength is a little weaker, maid." Vlad smiled and said, "I just don't want to see that my first crew member has only such strength. Isn't it too shameful to say it?" The maid was a little surprised. "That's why I decided," Vlad looked enthusiastic, "to train you well. It's the kind of practice where you die if you don't improve." Baby 5 was stunned and did not regain his senses. "Don't worry," Vlad comforted. "Generally speaking, it is impossible to die. I am quite experienced." The maid was stunned. Soon, under Vlad's rapidity, the shadow of the huge Gurren, Tesolo has faintly appeared above the sea level. The huge ship's shadow looks exactly like an island. At this time, the sun has just risen. In the mid-air, the sun shone softly on the sea. Chapter 33 Goal, Paradise. I really didn't expect to come back so soon. On the huge dining table, two men sat opposite each other across the long table. That is, these guys had good eyes, otherwise it would be difficult to see the face of the guy opposite. While enjoying a hearty breakfast, Tesoro quietly chatted with the goblin guy across from him. He really didn't expect that Charlotte Cracker's strength is very clear. If the battlefield is on this ship, on this Gulen Tesolo, then he is confident that he can beat Cracker. After all, this is his old lair and his base camp. All the goings in this city of Going are controlled by him. Once launched, it will be a devastating going frenzy. There will not be many people who can resist in this sea. Although Cracker is strong, it may not be easy to win under such an offensive. But if it was outside this ship, Tesoro thought to himself, his winning rate might not be that high. After all, that man is a well-known powerhouse in the New World for a long time, the sharpest 3 of the Big Mom pirates. One of the sharp swords. I don't know enough about fighting techniques and hockey's practice. If I hadn't started a death fight with that man in my own lair, I'm afraid I could only have a 50% chance of winning. That's why Tesoro is so shocked that Vlad was able to get rid of Cracker so quickly to bring baby 5 back, which is amazing, isn't it? Tesoro involuntarily looked at Vlad a little again. Aside from the back and forth time, this man was equivalent to having regained his target with just a few moves, which is really astonishing. Really? Vlad's mouth was wide open and his mouth was full of food, but his hands were still not free, and he kept grabbing food and stuffing it into his mouth. After 2 fierce battles one night, his physical strength was really exhausted. He continues to eat and replenish energy. I have to say that it is not only people who are perverted in the world of pirates. The animals and plants here are also not simple. Vlad doesn't quite understand. He only knows that a piece of meat of the same size here provides about 10 times the energy of the previous life. Otherwise, why do these supermen in this world maintain their vigorous vitality and strong physique? This is a two-way reinforcement. I think it's okay. Brother Cracker didn't mean to fight with me. Vlad said vaguely. He didn't lie. Although Cracker looked like he wanted to kill Vlad with 2 swords, he still didn't go all out in his hands, which Vlad could easily sense. Even after Vlad showed his strength that was not inferior to him, Cracker still did not kill him. Vlad could easily feel that although his power was not retained, Cracker had no will to fight. For a strong man like Vlad, will is undoubtedly an important factor in battle. The lack of will to fight meant that Cracker had left, and Vlad knew that. Although he doesn't show mercy, he actually keeps his hands subconsciously in his heart. This is the emotion between brothers. Vlad knows this very well. It's like he can't bear to give Cracker a heavy hand. Cracker also has the same feeling. After all, they are brothers who have lived together for 20 years. Little ashamed to say that when I was young, Katakuri and others even changed diapers for little Vlad, which is really an unbearable black history. What's next? Tessero held a cigar in his mouth, and Tanaka behind him walked up to light a cigarette for him. What are you going to do next? Tessero let out a smoke ring leisurely and asked casually. Next. Vlad slumped on the chair with his round stomach, hiccuped, and replied contentedly, let's go to paradise next. Paradise. Tessero frowned. Is there anything you can expect from a place like that? Tessero is telling the truth. The first half of the Great Route, commonly known as paradise, is not a great place. Compared with the New World, it is a world of difference. You must know that the strong will always hug each other. Among the pirates, most of the strong are in the New World, and the pirates in paradise are weak. Paradise is the world of marine. The strongest pirates are Shichibukai, the king who was recruited by the world government. They are also recognized as the weakest too. Crocodile and Gecko Moria are the weakest Shichibukai. Tessero really doesn't understand why a man like Vlad is uncomfortable going to paradise. You know, the reason why the pirates in paradise are weak is undoubtedly Marine's credit. Now is not the time when Akainu was in power. Marine's headquarters also at Marineford. The first half of the Great Route is Marine's focus. Ordinary pirates in the paradise will at best meet the Vice Admiral level crusade, but Vlad is different. With his strength, the Marine of the Vice Admiral level is tantamount to delivering food, so once Vlad is the same if there is a big movement in the park, it is very likely to usher in Admiral's crusade. Has no doubts against the top powerhouses of the Admiral level of the four emperors. There is absolutely no chance of winning. Admiral is not a cat or a dog. Speaking of the current situation in Marine, although there are currently 3 Admiral plus heroes Garp and Sengoku the Buddha, there are 5 top powerhouses in total, but the Vice Admiral is the second tier are weak and pitiful, compared to the 4 emperors. Their cadres are really underwhelming, so a few years later, Marine Admiral was vacant, and Marine was only recruited from the world instead of being promoted from Vice Admiral. This is enough to see that Marine's combat power is faulty. There are still some interesting people. Vlad whispered, there are still some things in the paradise that I am very interested in. It just so happens that I'm short of crew now. The monsters in the New World have almost divided up their powerful combat power. I can only go to paradise and go to the 4 seas to find out if there are any potential stocks. As you please. Tessero didn't care too much either. Although the two apparently had a partnership, they were actually far less harmonious. After all, such cooperation was formed under the threat of Vlad, and Vlad wanted to do what he wanted. Not interested at all, but Tessero wouldn't mind helping Vlad if it really went as he had planned. Tessero. Vlad raised his head, looked at Tessero with burning eyes, and said with a smile, there's still a little thing I need your help here. Chapter 34 Come. The weather in the New World is really fickle. It was fine before and then there was a sudden heavy rain, but it didn't take long for the weather to be sunny again. Yangguan is not strong, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is soft. In the New World, the weather is very rare, and there are a few white clouds hanging lazily in the air, which are weak for the ships below. Not much sunlight. The sea breeze is very warm, with the breath of 1/3 of the sea salt gently blowing on the face, giving people a sense of comfort from the heart. At least, Vlad now feels very comfortable. Such a leisurely feeling is really good. This is a merchant ship. Yes, a merchant ship. Don't think that there are only pirates in the New World, only pirate ships. In fact, the forces in the New World are intricate and complicated. In addition to the 4 emperors who ruled the New World, there are countless the forces are intertwined. Needless to say about the tycoons of various underground forces, everyone knows that there are not a few tycoons like Flamingo and Emperor Going. Although the 4 emperors rule the world, they do not care about these guys very much. After all, for as far as the 4 monsters are concerned, there is no need to care about these secret mice. In fact, even in the New World, there are merchants. After all, the New World is only a small part of the world's seas, and it is really small, so the 4 emperors who ruled the New World are actually not as powerful as they imagined. The New World is not big, so many of the resources they need cannot be produced by themselves, so the business of maritime merchants came into being naturally. The merchants who are attached to many underground kings are not very afraid of the pirates of the New World. Except for the 4 emperor pirates and the fledgling Leng Tu king, I am afraid that no one dares to touch them. Vlad is now on such a merchant ship. This ship is really attached to a merchant ship of a Tessero Chamber of Commerce. Never underestimate the mentality of merchants chasing profit, that is more than Luffy's desire to become One Piece king of pirates' strong will. Vlad wanted to go to the paradise, and there were only 3 paths he could choose. The first one, which was the common method used by many pirates, went through the passage below the Red Earth continent, via Fishman Island, to the paradise. This is actually very dangerous. There are actually not a few supernovae that die on the seabed every year. After all, human beings are very powerless on the seabed. The second road is more troublesome. It crosses the windless zone, enters the 4 seas, and enters paradise through Upside Down Mountain. Although the windless zone is the habitat of the Sea Kings, it is undoubtedly an absolute forbidden place for humans. But that's all. For the real powerhouses, those Sea Kings are just bigger fish, and they are not threatening, not to mention that Vlad can fly. But, for Vlad, this is too much trouble, okay. It's too much trouble to go to the world first and then detour to the paradise, right? Could there be an easier way to do so much trouble? So he chose the third way. Basically, no pirates will choose this way, or in other words, no pirates will ever choose this way, that is, directly crossing Mariajoy to enter the paradise. As the center of the world government, Mariajoy is naturally heavily guarded, but it is not forbidden to pass. As long as you apply in advance, you can pass through with the permission of the direct government. Although you need to abandon the ship, the application is very time-consuming, but it is very safe. For Vlad, these 2 conditions are actually close to nothing. This ship is a ship belonging to Tessero. As a man who can use Bailey to shake Tenryubito, Tessero's ship needs a little inspection to pass. The question of time naturally no longer exists. As for abandoning the ship, who cares about him? It's not Vlad's own ship. Vlad sat leisurely in the stern of the boat, holding a fishing rod in his hand, catching fish leisurely, and behind him, a baby 5 dressed in a maid's outfit was struggling to do push-ups. Don't get me wrong, although BABY 5 is very weak, it is overwhelmingly strong compared to ordinary people. It can make her feel difficult because this push-up is not easy. Several huge iron blocks overlapped and pressed on the maid's slender back. It looked really shocking, making people wonder if someone was abusing women. Damn. Maid's voice sounded very angry. You bastard. My mother will kill you sooner or later. Woo ha ha. Vlad didn't look back, smiled, and replied insincerely, then you have to work hard. With your progress, I'm afraid it's still a bit difficult to kill me. Although she said she was unwilling, in fact, the maid consciously practiced daily according to Vlad's practice strategy. Vlad sometimes wondered if this woman might be the legendary Sheikh M. The slender maids were working hard and exercising, but the strong men were fishing leisurely. I have to say, this is really a strange situation. It's evil. The maid's arms trembled a little, and her body began to shake. It could be seen that she was indeed approaching the limit. As if he didn't see it, Vlad didn't care about the maid's body at all, and said lightly, "Come on, Miss Maid, don't be overwhelmed. It's still 251 from 3000. If I can't hold it before then, I won't help. There was no joke in Vlad's eyes. If you are killed by an iron block, it only means that you are here. Who wants your help? Baby 5 let out a roar, trembling at first. The body that was already close to the limit did not know where to get the strength. The weak arms suddenly became stronger, and the push-ups that could no longer be done actually started to grow again. The wind did it. A smile flashed across Vlad's eyes. Sure enough, the trick is useful. The One Piece King of Pirates world, or in other words, all the hot-blooded comic worlds, have a general rule, that is, the strength is not strong enough to make it together, and it has a strong willpower. A person can often become a strong person. This is even more evident in the world of One Piece King of Pirates. Haki, especially Conqueror Haki, is the embodiment of will. With his tenacious will, Luffy has defeated many powerful enemies. Although Baby 5's current performance seems unreasonable, it is actually in line with the basic law of the One Piece King of Pirates world. Era, this little brother, can you give me a ride? Just when Vlad was somewhat satisfied with the maid's performance, a voice came over. Vlad turned his head subconsciously, and suddenly, the expression on his face was extremely wonderful. Chapter 35 Kuzan. Era, saved. The tall curly-haired man sat cross-legged on the deck, leaning on the side of the boat, with two hands behind his head, with a lazy expression on his face, said in a very perfunctory tone, the bicycle is by his side. Vlad sat across from him, the fish hadn't caught, and looked at the man with a strange look. Era pull. Man's scalp was numb when he saw him. This little brother, please don't look at me like this. It feels very bad. Ahaha, sorry, I can't help it. Vlad smiled excitedly. After all, this is the first time I have had such a close encounter with a big man like you. The man glanced at Vlad lightly, his tone still lazy. Who are you lying to? The aura of a strong man can't be concealed no matter what. Just like when Whitebeard Kaido stood there with red hair, other eyes decided not to move to other people, and that natural aura would spread out unconsciously. Maybe ordinary people can't notice it, but as an equally powerful person, such a temperament can't be hidden anyway. Although Vlad is still a bit far from the level of the four emperors, there is no doubt that this man is now a rare powerhouse in the sea. So the curly-haired man has such words. After all, his strength can reach such a level at this point. It can never be the result of behind closed doors, saying that you have not met those big people. Who is lying? Ahahaha. Vlad didn't mean to be embarrassed at all. He laughed ha ha ha, took out a small notebook, and said with a smile, woo ha ha, it's rare to meet you once. Please sign me, Kuzan Admiral. The curly-haired man is none other than Kuzan. Kuzan, one of the 3 admirals of the Marine headquarters, the highest combat power in the world government. This lazy man looked at Vlad holding a small notebook in surprise. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. Marine was not a popular character in the sea. Not to mention the thieves, those who dare to go out to sea are generally unwilling ambitions. Even the sea merchants are no exception. It is very common for these people to commit crimes, and their attitude towards Marine is naturally not very good. Era pull. Kuzan sat up with a headache and looked at Vlad condescendingly. I have to say, the height of people in the world of One Piece King of Pirates is really unscientific. Vlad's height of 2 meters is really small in this world. Dwarf. This little brother. Kuzan scratched his head, and couldn't understand Vlad's way. Stop joking. Vlad shook his head with a smile and said solemnly, this is not a joke, Kuzan Admiral, this is the first time I have seen an admiral-level powerhouse. Why do I need an autograph? Seeing that Vlad was serious, Kuzan reluctantly stretched out his hand to take the small book in Vlad's hand, and then he was a little surprised. The first few pages of the small book had already been written, but he didn't care too much. Sign your name. Vlad took the notebook and put it into his arms solemnly. He didn't get bored and asked Kuzan to sign it. There were 4 names on the notebook, but they were all written by Vlad himself. The 4 names were Whitebeard Edward Newgate, Red-haired Shanks, Kaido of the Beasts, and Big Mom Charlotte Linlin. Every time he saw a top powerhouse in the sea, Vlad would write down a name in his notebook. The guys represented by these names were the people Vlad wanted to defeat. But Kuzan didn't know about this. He was the first man to sign his name on Vlad's rival list. I have to say that Vlad is really a bit of a bad guy. Kuzan Admiral, I'm a little curious, why are you wandering in the New World? And you're alone? Vlad asked curiously. He is really curious. After all, Marine Admiral is not a cat or a dog. They are the highest combat power of the real-world government. One admiral stays in the headquarters, and 2 admiral go out on missions or the general guidelines of the Marine headquarters. After all, plus Sengoku and Garp, the 3 top combat powers are not afraid of anyone who wants to play tricks. Although it is true that Marine Admiral will come out to do the task, but where is it? The New World, the paradise of pirates. Marine can't get along here. A Marine Admiral appearing in the New World is a very scary thing, and even more scary is that this Marine Admiral is still alone. This is not just looking for a fight. Although Admiral is strong, he is not invincible. The 4 emperors can match him. It is not impossible for Kaido Whitebeard to defeat Admiral. At Kuzan, Vlad can pat his chest and say, Kuzan may not be able to get out of the New World. After all, he is not Kizaru with invincible speed. So Vlad was curious, what made Kuzan dare to enter the New World alone to do things? What is the important thing? Sorry, brother. Kuzan didn't mind Vlad's inquiries about Marine's secrets. People are always curious. Kuzan understood this very well. Even he himself thought it was a crazy move to go into the New World by himself. This is a military secret. Kuzan said softly. Is that so? Vlad was not surprised at all. It was a military secret. Kuzan told him that it would make him feel like a ghost. He did not continue to ask questions, and people still need to have some eyesight. Vlad, Ferdinando Vlad. Vlad stretched out a hand and chuckled. I hope you remember this name. Ferdinando. Kuzan muttered to himself softly, looking at Vlad with a strange look, and then he also stretched out his hand, clasping his 2 big hands together. This was the first time the 2 met. Kuzan didn't know that the man in front of him was a man who aspired to become One Piece, king of pirates, and he didn't know that the man had already regarded himself as an imaginary enemy as soon as he saw him, and he began to think about what to do. To be able to defeat yourself. It's a bit a shame to say that, although he has been with the Charlotte family and the 4 Emperor pirates for more than 10 years, Vlad really did not offer a reward. For the Marines, he is a transparent person, so Kuzan doesn't know him. If Kuzan knew that the man in front of him used to be a member of the 4 Emperor's pirates, he might not be able to resist asking him to go back and have a good talk about the staffing of the big moms and the secrets of the team. Vlad didn't mean to reveal his identity. After all, it wouldn't do him any good to go to war with Marine now. Chapter 36 Days with Admiral. Hey, it's so cold. Vlad rubbed his goosebumps arm, exhaled a cold breath, and said in surprise, is this the power of the frozen fruit? Really? It's so scary. Even if you look at the entire Great Root, it's a rare existence. This sun must not stay. Vlad did not say this sentence. Huge merchant ships were moving slowly on the sea. Not far away, the sea was no longer the sea, and a vast expanse of white had completely replaced the blue sea. It was a huge ice field that did not know where to go. On the ice field, a huge pirate ship is extremely conspicuous. It has been completely frozen into an ice block. There is no sign of life. The above is silent, just as quiet as the ice field it is in, except for the whistling cold wind. Blows occasionally. This is undoubtedly Kuzan's masterpiece. Just now, Vlad saw with his own eyes what an admiral-level monster looks like. He just stretched out his hand gently, and as a slender icicle pierced into the ocean, the terrifying change instantly appeared. The originally sparkling sea was frozen in an instant, and the white ice field grew out of nothing and quickly began to spread into the distance. The terrifying cold was completely reported, and there was no chance to even call for help. Those trash fishes who didn't even show their faces had already lost their lives. This is the combat power of the admiral level, which is extremely terrifying. For ordinary pirates, even the pirates of the New World, they possess overwhelming strength. It is unimaginable what kind of powerhouse is needed to defeat Kuzan at sea. His ability has surpassed the sea, and the curse of devil fruit has been overcome by him. His power is beyond doubt. Made Vlad even more unimaginable was how Akainu defeated Kuzan more than 3 years later. As we all know, 3 years later, two people fought for the position of marshal. For 10 days and 10 nights, two monster-like guys had a life and death showdown in Punk Hazard. At the end of the battle, the terrain and climate of the entire island had been completely changed. This was an even more amazing result than Paramesha's awakening. Punk Hazard, who was half flame and half glacier, was the greatest determination of the combat effectiveness of these two monsters. The result was that Akainu won, became the new Marshal of Marine, and embarked on the path of winning in life, while Kuzan's leg was broken, so he quit Marine sadly, took a penguin and started selling shaved ice everywhere in the New World, and finally mixed with Blackbeard. Together, it's really miserable. Maybe it's fruit restraint. Vlad can only think so. The strength of the three admiral is almost the same. Akainu's ability to slightly outperform Kuzan is probably due to magma fruit's restraint on frozen fruit, but in any case, Akainu's victory is undeniable, and he has become the only known man in the world of One Piece King of Pirates to have a record of defeating Admiral. Tisk tisk. Thinking of this, Vlad couldn't help but look at Kuzan with a bit of pity. Sure enough, when he was on the top of the war, he didn't cross his legs, nor stepped on Whitebeard's big sword, so Akainu broke his leg. Era pull. Kuzan was lying on the reclining chair, blindfold covering his eyes. He didn't see Vlad's expression. Little brother, what you just said really made me shudder. The captain of the ship had no opinion on Kuzan's boarding, and he didn't dare to have an opinion. After Kuzan got on the ship, he and Vlad had been basking on the deck together, chatting and spanking was somewhat harmonious. Where is it? Vlad was also lying on a reclining chair. One of the two was Marine Admiral, and the other was a rare strong man in the sea. He lay leisurely on the deck and basked in the sun, looking like it is very leisurely. Mr. Kuzan's strength is really terrifying. He is indeed a rare powerhouse in the sea. Hi. Kuzan felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. I always feel that this is not a good word. Ah ha ha ha. Vlad laughed and didn't answer. He couldn't say that this was a classic line from a certain potato. Little brother, do you want to go to the first half of the Great Route? Vlad didn't speak, but Kuzan spoke first. He was really curious about Vlad. This man's strength is not simple, but it's nothing. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon in the sea, there are a few monsters there. Such as Fujitora Ryokugyu. Kuzan is just a little curious. After all, this man's attitude towards himself is very strange. That's right. Vlad's eyes fell casually on his mate who was exercising hard, and he answered indifferently. The New World is too messy. I want to go to the paradise and stay for a while. Is that so? Kuzan was lying motionless on the reclining chair with his blindfold on. If he hadn't been talking, Vlad would have thought he had fallen asleep. This man really carried out his lazy justice thoroughly. So, little brother, is there any interested? Interested? Vlad raised his eyebrows. What does Mr. Kuzan mean? I just wanted to ask brother Vlad if you were interested in joining Marine. Kuzan's voice was lazy and lacked motivation. Marine's welfare is still good. Needless to say, 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, etc. It's a trivial matter to allocate a house, and there will be a warship gift when the rank is up. How about it? Brother, think about it carefully. Go. Marine. Vlad didn't even think about it, and bluntly refused. Then forget it. Marine or something is really not suitable for me. Oh. Kuzan pushed off the blindfold, looked at Vlad without any change in his tone, and asked, can you tell me why? Mr. Kuzan. Vlad did not keep his mouth shut because Kuzan was a Marine, and said bluntly, it's very simple, Mr. Kuzan, is Marine's justice really justice? Well. Kuzan sat up and looked down at Vlad with a rare serious expression on his face. Vlad didn't care about Kuzan's performance, and continued his rebellious remarks. Is Marine really a guardian of justice who fights to protect the interests of all the people on the sea? Master. Indeed, the winner is justice, and Marine's strength cannot be compared to the four emperors. In this way, Marine is indeed the most righteous existence on the sea. But, Vlad turned his head and looked directly at Kuzan. Mr. Kuzan, is such justice really justice? Kuzan didn't speak, just stared at Vlad silently, with a faint chill coming out of his body. Vlad did not have the slightest fear. He knew that Kuzan and Akainu were different after all. Era. Kuzan scratched his head in annoyance, and lay back on the reclining chair. The blindfold covered his eyes again. The man who was one of the top men in Marine wasn't angry at Vlad's offense. Now the little devil is really not good at fooling around. The man said so. Vlad's mouth raised a smile. Kuzan, what a very interesting man. Chapter 37 Mariajoy. Kuzan disembarked. In the days after Vlad expressed his views, although the two of them were still basking on the deck together, they still chatted and spanked as always, but they were not as harmonious as before. Even though Kuzan is a very bold man, justice and Marine are his bottom line after all. When the merchant ship was near Marine G5, Kuzan disembarked. He had no reason to stay any longer. He should return to the headquarters as soon as possible and report the results of the battle. Before disembarking, Kuzan said something to Vlad very solemnly. He said that Marine's justice will represent the justice of all people sooner or later. Vlad smiled and didn't answer, and Kuzan didn't care. He rode his bicycle away, just as handsome as he came. Speaking of which, Kuzan is the worst in Marine Admiral. Kazaru Sabayati Archipelago is escorted by warships, and Akainu's pursuit of Blackbeard is also transported by warships. Only Kuzan is the only one who has been racing the world with a bicycle. It's really bad, isn't it? Vlad didn't care about Kuzan's last words at all. Marine's justice is just a little embellishment. In fact, they are just subordinates of the world government, and the world government is Tenryubito's puppet. Marine, why go to justice for everyone? Even Sengoku Kuzan, or Akainu, the radicals who later came to power, just danced in shackles, exercising their justice within the bounds of the world government, which, after all, was seen as the government served by Tenryubito. Later, even for an abandoned Doflamingo, the world government did not hesitate to slap Marine's face like an ass. Tenryubito was injured a little, and Admiral attacked immediately. Can what such an institution practice also be called justice? Yes, most of the members of Marine may be really righteous, whether it is Sengoku Garp, Kuzan and later Fujitora, or even the extreme justice radical Akainu. What they pursue is undoubtedly the enemy of evil, justice to protect innocent people. But how to define this sin? Of course, it is defined by the world government and by the world aristocracy. Marine, after all, is only the surface of the world government. Vlad said that he has no interest in such justice. After all, he is from a civilized world, where there is no absolute fairness and justice, let alone here. In this life, what Vlad pursued was vigorous and thrilling, not a partner of justice. Kuzan's departure did not have any negative impact on Vlad's schedule. After all, the two just met by chance. Of course, it is very likely that they will be enemies in the future. However, the future will let the future self worry about it. Well, Vlad thought so. In the next few days, Vlad should eat and drink. Dessert time is naturally essential every day. There is a dessert chef who he specially asked for from Tessero on board. The level of cooking is far better than his maid. Above, let him enjoy it a lot, but don't get me wrong. He is not a person who is addicted to sweets, he just needs to add sugar every day. Naturally, the maid didn't have the daily dessert cooking work, and Vlad went a step further with her training. Daily physical exercise was only basic, and hockey's exercise had also been put on the agenda. Development of hockey. Vlad can be said to be very familiar. Armament hockey is just a typing, there are no shortcuts, constantly attacking, constantly being attacked, supplemented by a certain amount of mental stimulation. As long as the body is strong enough, armament hockey's awakening is not enough, it's a matter of sooner or later. Observation hockey is more troublesome. This is a more idealistic power. It has no entity, but a power similar to hunch. An observation hockey training is more about training people's intuition. The eyes are wrapped with thick black cloth, the ears are covered with cotton balls, and Vlad personally shoots to attack the baby five constantly. This is the simple and rough training method formulated by Vlad. Armament observation hockey. Two kinds of hockey are developed at the same time. After all, if you can't escape Vlad's attack, the maid will be beaten. Vlad said before that if you can't pass, you will die. It's not a complete joke. Every day, baby five will be beaten all over the head. Vlad, I felt a little distressed when I saw it, but how should I continue to practice the next day? Vlad is not a soft-hearted man. Time passed like this for several days, and finally, the towering red earth continent appeared in front of Vlad. Vlad stood at the bow of the boat, and the huge high wall in the distance that did not know where to go as the largest continent in the world, the red earth continent, which naturally divides the world. Vlad's eyes were a little eager. Just in front, on the towering red earth continent, there was a city, the center of the world government, the gathering place of Tenryubito, Mariajoy. Vlad couldn't wait. Soon, the merchant ships sailed into the marine base under the red earth continent. The G1 base is located under the red earth continent, that is, directly below Mariajoy. In the period of Akainu's administration 3 years later, this will become the new marine headquarters. However, that is the future, and now, here is just a slightly special marine base. Chiang Kai-tongshan's words are not for fun. Tessero's power is really terrifying, and the inspection work that should have been very strict was easily fooled. The captain of the merchant ship and the marine who came here seemed to be familiar with each other, calling them brothers. Not so affectionate. As for the application, not to mention it. The merchant ship only took an hour to enter the base, and the time for unloading was excluded. Vlad and his party were already preparing to board the red soil continent. The application that took a long time in the legend has never been seen. To get on the Mariajoy, not to mention the strict control of marine since Fisher, Tiger, to say that the towering red soil continent is not an easy existence to cross, not to mention that it is the center of the world government. Once something goes wrong, waiting for the perpetrator is the siege of the most terrifying force in the world. But for the merchant ship that Vlad is on now, it is not difficult to board the Mariajoy. The giant snails have long been waiting. Vlad has seen this thing. Legend has it the kingdom of Germa is a mobile country built on these giant snails. These snails can easily take them across the red soil continent. Obviously, the world government has not missed such a peculiar means of transportation. The speed of the giant snail is not very slow. Vlad leaned against the window, watching the gradually shrinking scenery outside the window and the gradually clearing sea surface with interest, until the sight was blocked by the clouds and mist, and he felt a little emotional, living at such a high altitude. The place where the status is so respected, it is no wonder that Tenryubito does not regard himself as a human being. Soon, the snail had already landed on the red soil continent, and a white town appeared in front of Vlad. Vlad's mouth cracked at a wanton angle, and he couldn't wait. Chapter 38 The Beginning of Chaos. I have to say the level of vigilance of the world government, or the importance the world government attaches to Tenryubito. Obviously, they had already been checked at Marine Base before, but after boarding Mariajoy, Vlad and his party immediately ushered in the second round. Inspection of. It is far more solemn than the first round, or it is somewhat unusual. Whether it is goods or people, everyone, every item of goods and even the carry-on luggage carried by everyone has undergone extremely strict investigations. Trying not to have anything that could harm Tenryubito in the slightest. No wonder that Akainu will directly call Gorosei, 5 elders puppets of Tenryubito after the Daros Rosa incident 5 years later. The importance attached by the world government to Tenryubito is evident, although the descendants of the 20 kings who established the world government at the beginning, the descendants of the creator Tenryubito are no longer in charge of the world government personally, but there is no doubt that the world is still under their control. How ironic this is. The fundamental purpose of Marine, who is known as the Master of Justice, is to serve these worms, which is really ugly. Is such justice also worthy of being called justice? Vlad wandered the streets of Mariajoy and thought with interest. Mariajoy is forbidden to visit, and no one knows how many of the world government staff who come and go know the secrets of the world government, so even those who pass the inspection are never allowed to wander in Mariajoy. Vlad didn't want to attract attention, so he just wandered on the passage designated by the world government, without any intention of infringing on the privacy of the government or Tenryubito. Once discovered, it was no small matter. No reason was needed, and he would be executed directly. There is resistance, and what awaits him may be Admiral's crusade. This city. Vlad looked around, and it was indeed an extremely beautiful city. The whole body was made of white stones, and there were no obvious carving marks. It was not unacceptable to use the word art to describe this city. In comparison, IWC, Talent, which Vlad has grown up for 20 years, is really weak, and I have to say that Charlotte Linlin's aesthetics are really problematic. It's so ugly. Although the eyes can't see, but the heart can hear, Vlad's observation hockey is fully open, and the ugly truth hidden behind the city that can't be seen directly begins to emerge gradually. Despair, what despair is that? Resentment, is that really the resentment that human beings can have? Pain, true pain from the bottom of my heart. Numbness, without a trace of feeling, just like this kind of numbness. Humans, how can they be so evil? Vlad suddenly had a feeling of being out of breath, and when observation hockey was fully open, he suddenly had a feeling of being enveloped by an inexplicable invisible substance. It was a dark cloud that penetrated. With endless malice, hidden in it is the cry of blood and tears of countless people. Ha, ha, ha. Vlad gasped heavily, and there was a cold sweat on his forehead. You must know that even when Vlad was fighting Tessero or Cracker, he was still at ease, his strength did not bottom out, and he was under pressure. It's not big, but now it's just opening observation hockey once, and it can actually make him reach this point. Mariajoy, the center of the world, the city, how sinful is it? Vlad silently withdrew observation hockey, feeling a little heavy for no reason, although the guys here had nothing to do with him, although he was not obliged to do anything for them. However, I always feel that if I don't do something, I don't have a good idea, and I always feel very unhappy. I was still a little hesitant at first, but now it seems that the last trace of concern is gone. Vlad showed a wild smile, his eyes were firm. Mariajoy was not allowed to stay, and the world government officials who came to supervise or monitor looked on indifferently, looking at Vlad and the merchant ship captain with disdain. After all, he was an official under the world government, and his power was comparable to those of Vlad's previous politicians. Much bigger. After all, there is no supervision mechanism for power in this world, and they can do whatever they want, which is amazing. Soon, Vlad mixed in the caravan and began to prepare to leave Mariajoy. The meticulously haired, gentle-looking young government official with golden glasses watched the whole process, and did not give Vlad and his party any free time. Leaving Mariajoy, of course, also relies on giant snails. These big guys are really a very useful group of creatures. I have to say that the world of One Piece, King of Pirates, is amazing. The mobile phone is also a living natural growth creature, which is really interesting. As the altitude gradually decreases, the sea is getting closer and closer, and the first half of the Great Route, commonly known as the Sea Area of Paradise, has arrived. The destination of the merchant ship is the last island in the first half of the Great Voyage, Sabayati Archipelago, commonly known as the Soap Bubble Islands, relying on the world's largest mangrove tree, the Alchiman mangrove. The whole island is composed of 79 tree groups with CD numbers. Each tree has towns and facilities, and people call this archipelago of 79 islands, Sabayati Archipelago. Vlad and his maids were separated from the merchant ships here. After all, the place where the soap bubbles were flying was already one of the biggest gold-selling caves in the paradise, and the merchant ships had no reason to go any further. Vlad found a hotel on Tree Island number 73. Tree Island number 70 to 79 is mainly a gathering place for hotel streets. After all, this island is full of people, the traffic is huge, and the hotel industry is extremely prosperous. After arriving at the hotel, I rested for a few hours, had a full meal, and enjoyed a special cake from Sabayati for a while in Maymay. Vlad had never tried such a specialty, and it was indeed a rare delicacy. Then, night finally came. Vlad asks the maid, who is very rebellious, and tells her to stay in the hotel honestly and not to run around. After all, the chances of seeing Tenryubito in Sabayati archipelago are far greater than the chances of coming in Mariajoy. After all, Mariajoy is there a world government staff who artificially isolate all kinds of irrelevant people, but there is no such thing here. The maid, who was still outraged, immediately became extremely docile under Vlad's request, and Vlad couldn't help but sigh, this woman is really coaxing. The sky was completely dark. Vlad turned into a huge dragon man, and his wings kept flapping behind him. The man was like an arrow from the string, walking through the clouds. Soon, the tall red earth continent was covered with white. The town had appeared before his eyes again. Ahaha! Shake the world, this is the first step. Mobile users, please visit Reading for a better reading experience. Chapter 39 Fire. Mariajoy at night is not quiet, the lights illuminate the night sky, and the noise is even greater than that during the day. For the world noble Tenryubito, there is no concept of going to bed early. The residence of the world government is clearly separated from the gathering place of Tenryubito. The area where Tenryubito is located is the upper urban area, which occupies a large area. The residence of the world government is located in the lower urban area, which is relatively small. This is also normal, in the eyes of Tenryubito, who think themselves gods. Even the world government, even the Gorosei, 5 elders, even these figures at the center of world power, are just some slaves. After all, the world government, it was established by Tenryubito, to serve the rule of Tenryubito. The upper city where Tenryubito is located is extremely well defended. Not only are there guards patrolling back and forth, but there are also unknown guards lurking in the dark. They experienced the incident where Fisher Tiger climbed Mariajoy with his bare hands and freed the slaves. After that, even with Tenryubito's arrogance, they had to admit that their defenses were indeed a little weak. No matter how unwilling they are, no matter how much they resist themselves to get into the realm of gods and enter some mortals, the Tenryubito have to let those guards enter their gathering place. After all, if there is another tiger, then Tenryubito will be too rude. So, when Vlad floated in midair and observation hockey swayed unscrupulously, I felt a little uncomfortable. Why is the Tenryubito gathering place where Fisher Tiger was like a no-man's land now so heavily guarded? Hi. Vlad scratched his head in annoyance. He originally wanted to sneak in, but it seems a little difficult now. He wanted to learn to be an assassin, but now it seems that he has only Kai Washwang. Vlad's actions this time were premeditated. After all, the attack on Mariajoy was an earth-shattering event. I am afraid that not many people would dare to do it just on a momentary impulse. What greeted them after this was the encirclement and suppression of the world government with all its might. Although the 4 sovereigns are powerful, they are somewhat weaker than the world government. Their power is huge, which means that they cannot hide, and they can face it head-on. On the contrary, it is a loner like Vlad. As long as his identity is not revealed, as long as he is not caught on the spot, it is not easy to be caught. Vlad looked at the noisy Tenryubito gathering place below, and a smile formed on the corner of his mouth. Since you can't sneak in, then let's make a mess. Vlad stretched out a finger, which was covered with fiery red scales, and even in the dark night sky, there was a faint glimmer of light. A little golden fire flickered on his fingertips. Searing rays. The trick that once defeated the leader of the Hacksaw pirates, Eben, appeared again in Vlad's hands. A ray of light flashed in the night sky and then disappeared. After that, in the gathering place of Tenryubito, a house suddenly burst into flames and began to spread rapidly. Go, go, It's on fire. Panicked cries broke Mariajoy's harmonious evening. All the guards who witnessed the tumbling flames felt the despair in their hearts. In any case, no matter how much damage was caused, whether there were casualties or not, they all knew that they and others were already dead, and the world nobles were not talking about it. Reasonable guys, they will only think that it is the negligence of themselves and others. Fight the fire. Don't be stunned, stupid people, put out the fire. Fuck it up for Lao Su. A little leader dressed differently from ordinary guards grabbed a stunned guard, slapped him in the face, and shouted, "Don't fucking stand still. Tenryubito is watching. If there is any loss, let alone you, everyone will die." Team, Captain. The guard who was being held by him had a numb look on his face, stared blankly at the back of the little leader, raised a hand tremblingly, there is a fire over there again. Quote. What? The little leader turned his head sharply, and what caught his eyes was a golden fire. There, a large building was directly ignited, and the raging flames spread everywhere. The panic-stricken Tenryubitos were wondering if they called themselves gods. Appearance, under the urging of flames, fled everywhere. Ha, ha, ha. The little leader let go of his hand, fell to the ground, his face was sluggish, and smiled weakly. Ha 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 ha, it's over, we're over, everyone is dead. Crack. There was a burst of blood on the head of the little leader, and a world government official in a black suit put away his gun, walked up to the guards, and said coldly, "Why are you still standing there? Do you really want to die? Why don't you go put out the fire?" The death of the little leader awakened the guards. Although it is very likely that he will die in the future, it is better to die late than early. Moreover, it is not necessarily that he and others have been successful in fighting the fire. What if the nobles of the world forgive themselves and others? It has to be said that human beings always use the best imagination to imagine their future, and Tenryubito, who does not regard people as human at all, is actually imagined by these people as guys with good intentions. The guards quickly began to move, and those with buckets and water began to work. In such a short period of time, the flames have spread over a large area again, and many buildings have been swallowed up by the flames. The Tenryubitos dragged their families around and panicked, like refugees pouring out of the slums, rushing frantically towards the outside of the gathering place. Fortunately, the world government responded quickly. The world government staff dressed in black suits acted quickly, organized order, and provided protection, so that no one, these precious Tenryubitos, had any stampede injuries. Strangely, although the flames spread quickly, they did not spread towards the gathering place of slaves, but instead, the flames in Tenryubito's residential area were raging. No way. The flame. It's useless. Water is useless. Soon, the characteristics of Vlad's flame were discovered by many guards who extinguished the fire. It was useless to pour a little water on it. Instead, it was like adding oil to the fire. The more the flame burned, the more vigorous the flames rose. Something's wrong, this is not an ordinary flame. Someone shouted, "This is the flame of the able." Someone invaded. Check quickly, Mariajoy has infiltrated the intruder. The alarm rang through the night sky, and teams of black suits rushed into the Tenryubito station from the World Government Station, braving the raging flames to start the investigation. Many staff members of the world government were all shocked, and they were all scared out of their minds. Now the situation is obvious, and now someone has indeed invaded. This flame is not a natural flame. That time, Fisher, Tiger climbed the red soil continent with his bare hands and invaded Mariajoy, which was already a big stain on the face of the world government. Break the sky. This is the voice of everyone at this time. Chapter 40 Chaos Night. The flames spread unscrupulously between the buildings. Vlad was not so kind and would help Tenryubito control the affected area. For him, the more chaotic the situation, the greater the benefit to him. After all, the more the flames burn, the less time the world government and Tenryubito's guards will have time to find out who is doing it. For Tenryubito, their face is above everything else, and their home is being destroyed by others. If the fire is burnt out, do you want to lose face? Therefore, for the people of the world government, fighting the fire is the first task. Most of their troops have to be used to put out the fire for Tenryubito. What's even more amazing is that Vlad's flame is not an ordinary flame. Conventional fire extinguishing methods such as ordinary water have no effect on it. Only seawater can completely extinguish the flame. This is very interesting. It means that it may not be so easy for the world government to put out a fire. The best thing is that even a human, as long as there is no haki, is just courting death if he wants to enter the fire field. As long as a little spark splashes on his body, he will be dead immediately, and there is absolutely no second possibility. This situation also created the current situation of Vlad, surrounded by a golden flame. No one could have imagined that there would still be a person walking freely. Let me see, where is it? Vlad squatted on the top of a house, wearing a black cloak and a hood on his head, wrapping the whole person tightly. The black figure and the roaring golden flames around him formed a distinct comparison. Ah! I found it, there it is. Vlad jumped into the air. The huge wings stretched out from behind him and flapped a few times. The whole person disappeared into the night sky like a phantom. A flickering flame. Dash 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 dash. Fire! It's fire! A fire! A fire! Someone exclaimed. Ha 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 ha, have these demons finally ushered in sanctions? Ha ha ha, let's die, let's all die, let's die together. Is it God? Is it God who has come to punish these demons? Someone laughed wildly. The flames spread wildly, and they will burn here soon. Unlike Tenryubito, who has been watching and everyone is serving them, no one will protect them. No one will organize their evacuation, and no one will care about their lives and deaths. Although they are human beings, no one will ever see them as human beings. In this Mariajoy, in the center of this world government, on this red earth continent, they are the only group of people who are not called human beings. They are slaves, the captive slaves of Tenryubito, who can slaughter at will, exchange for pleasure at will. They have lost everything, life, body, wealth, and even freedom. All human beings have been deprived of everything that is human. It has to be said that this is indeed a very ironic thing. As human beings, one is called a god, and the other is just like a maggot. Devastating. No, maggots are at least disgusting. No one wants to pay attention to them. These slaves, even maggots, are not as good. There is no doubt that these people are Tenryubito, one of the greatest proofs of the evil of the world government. This is something that everyone in the world knows, but the irony is that there are not many people who really care about it, who have not seen it with their own eyes. Always don't care about other people's life or death. Only when bad luck really comes to me, can I deeply feel the despair of those people. The world really sucks. Vlad stood on the roof, observation hockey fully open, and he was numb to the performance of the slaves in the building below. Without the slightest sense of struggle, this is the performance of most slaves. It's no wonder that even Tessero and the Empress Boa Hancock were 3-pointed in anger and 7-pointed in fear when they mentioned Tenryubito. They only dared to hide their identity and had no thought of resisting. Tenryubito, after all, is the master of the world. This world of One Piece, King of Pirates, is like this. It's really rotten. It's completely useless. The existence of the world government is not to fight pirates, nor to better manage the world. They are still simply in the service of Tenryubito. Even the Gorosei, 5 elders, are nothing but Tenryubito's puppets. The people of this world have lost the spirit of resistance. Even the 4 emperors and even Whitebeard have no intention of fighting the world government or Tenryubito. After all, the pirates' enemies are only pirates, not marine, not the world government. For them, their freedom is enough. In this world, there are only 2 people who can truly target the world government. One is One Piece, King of Pirates, Gol D. Roger. This man knows everything in the world. The opening of the Great Pirate Age is undoubtedly to wake up human free will. The second, without a doubt, Monkey D. Dragon, the world's first true revolutionary, a man who dared to overthrow the world government and overthrow Tenryubito. Maybe there will be a Monkey D. Luffy in the future, and he may be like Roger when he reaches the final island. But now, there is no doubt that the world government rules the world, and the commoners see them as umbrellas, and Tenryubito as gods, let alone rebellion. Even the thought of it involves awe. So, it sucks. Vlad waved his hand gently, flames roared out, and the solid iron door was instantly blown open. Under Vlad's intentional control, the flame did not continue to burn, but went out directly, and the deep dark passage was suddenly exposed in front of him. Vlad stepped in, turned a few corners, and small, bird cage-like cages appeared in front of him. Frau looked around. These slaves looked at him numbly. No one begged him to let them out. They have lost hope in life. He originally didn't want to save these people. After all, they were all people who had nothing to do with him. However, it would only change after close contact. There is no way to ignore their misery. Yo, so many dead dogs. Fred chuckled. It was embarrassing that no one spoke up. I called it very happy just now, but now no one has spoken. I have to say, is this the otherworld version of the keyboard warrior? Want to go out? Vlad whispered. Going out is also death. Someone replied, I might as well die here. I want to go out, take me away. Finally someone shouted, take me away, take me out of this hell. Please, take me away. Sorry, everyone. Vlad looked serious. I'm just a person after all. There's no way I can take so many people away. All I can do is to let you out. As for how you choose in the future, whether you choose to work hard or accept your fate, it's up to you. Vlad didn't say any more. He sighed in his heart. That's all he can do after all, the rest is up to fate. Vlad waved his hand, and the flames swept out like a fiery snake. At this time, his extraordinary control and observation hockey finally manifested. Those iron gates, collars, handcuffs and shackles that hindered the freedom of slaves were almost instantaneous. Burned to nothingness by the fiery flames. Vlad turned and left. The rest is up to you. Quiet, quiet, no one speaks. Breathing is clearly audible. Everyone knows that the first person to speak will decide everything. And many times, people's actions only need a sentence or an excuse. I'm going to run. The man who had asked Vlad to save him stood up. Not long after he became a slave. I don't want to die here. You will die if you run. They are gods. Someone whispered. God. They're just human too. Even if I die, I want to die on the road of resistance. The man walked out of the cell with steady steps. The many remaining slaves looked at each other in dismay. Grass mud horse. A big man stood up and said, well, if you can kill Lao Su, come and kill me. Lao Su wants to be free. Freedom. Code, spell it. The riot gradually occurred, and the slaves stood up one by one, and a riot was formed. People's yearning for freedom is unstoppable. The will to pursue freedom is passed down from generation to generation. This is an existence that transcends life. The chaotic night has only just begun.